Chord.
It's your boy John.
And welcome back to the Artistry Drop, where we feature stories from today's rising artists.
Yes, sir.
If you like being inspired, don't miss out on our weekly episodes, so be sure to hit that subscribe button and bell notification to be notified when we drop new episodes. Guys, we're going to dive right in. Our guest today has been nominated for 3 Hollywood Music and Media Awards in Best Independent Music Video and Best Message in a Song and Social Impact on the first round Grammy ballot for Best Pop Vocal Album, and ranked in Music Connection magazine as top 4 unsigned artists of the years. All the years.
All the years.
She's had music placements on Spotify playlists, studio films, network TV, and ads for ABC, Netflix, Showtime, and IKEA. Guys, please welcome Kara Connolly.
Yes, sir. Let's go.
Thank you. So many people clapping for me.
Of course.
Yes.
They're happy you're on the
audience.
show, and we are happy you are on the show as
Thank
well.
you. I'm
Yes,
so
sir.
happy to be here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We appreciate you coming
With
on the
my
show.
pineapple drink.
Hey, of course. And hey, now that you mention it, we're going to get into the drink of the day.
All right, so the drink of the day is your classic pina colada, but this pina colada ain't your average pina colada. We got some layers to it, you know.
It does look like
Of course,
layers.
I cut up some fresh pineapple, but I also threw in some frozen ones to give it that thick texture, and then I put some cream of coconut and some coconut cream, and then what else did I put in there? Malibu, and then Jamaican rum, and I blended it all up with ice, and honestly, that was about pineapple juice, and yeah, that was about it. And then I topped it off with whipped cream, put some toasted coconut toppings on the rim.
That's pretty impressive to me.
It is.
Thank you.
It looks like perfectly. I don't know. I just feel like if I would have done this, somehow the coconut would be like all over this glass, and this is like perfectly on the rim.
Yes.
Thank you. I've had that
I don't know how
happen
you did
before.
that.
No, yes.
There's some tricks to it. I actually
Even on the...
Can you tell me the secret?
I'll tell you. I'll tell you the
Go ahead,
secret.
go ahead.
I actually put the glass in the freezer, and I rimmed it off with coconut cream of coconut.
Like just
on
right
the
where
glass.
you wanted it to
yeah,
be on
exactly.
the glass.
And then I dipped it in the toasted coconut shavings, and then I froze it so it stays in place.
Wow.
And then,
this is
There's some
pretty
steps
official.
there. Yeah.
Right.
There's some steps there.
There's some steps there. This was
Right.
no just like throw some coconut
Yeah.
on this
And,
glass.
yeah.
Like,
It's well planned.
yeah, it was well planned.
Yeah.
No, and what's
That's why
up?
it looks so beautiful.
Thank you.
No, it looks amazing. What
Yeah.
else?
And then I topped it off with whipped cream, and then put like a little pineapple slice, and then I topped it off with crushed pistachios.
Oh,
Yeah, and
wow.
little
That's
pineapple
amazing.
slices, and that's
You're
it.
right.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Why? Because you were like, "Are you okay with nuts?"
Right, right.
Yes.
And I was like, "Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm good with that."
Yes.
So
And that's the pistachio.
that's the pistachio. So
Yeah.
yeah, I don't think anyone has had a pina colada with pistachio. on top.
I don't
No,
think so.
I mean
Yeah.
this is kind of like a healthy pina colada. Like
yeah.
I can taste that it's not just like
Yeah.
a mix. Because
No, yeah.
sometimes you just taste it and you're like, this is clearly a mix.
Yeah.
Like a pina colada mix. Like
yeah.
and it's super sugary.
Right.
And like I'm tasting this and I'm like, I feel like I'm gonna feel good after this.
Yeah.
'Cause it's like actual pineapple,
Yeah.
like
Yeah, yeah.
actual coconut cream. Like it's like
Yeah, it's not
healthy for
it's
you.
not a
kinda.
pre-made mix. Yeah, I made everything from scratch. Used organic
yeah.
pork, pineapples, and organic frozen pineapple. So like everything.
I can
is,
taste it.
Yeah, fresh.
I'm kind of like a bit of a food drink snob.
Okay, connoisseur.
Connoisseur.
I don't know if I'd say a connoisseur,
Okay.
but I'm definitely like, nah, we're going here. Like,
Okay.
I'm like, it has to be good. And,
Okay.
and this lives up.
Hey, that's awesome. Hey, major
that-
props to John.
Yes, sir.
You
Thank
guys know
you. I
he's the
appreciate it.
Artistry Drop, bartender here.
Yeah.
So
Yes, sir.
hey, you've been killing it.
All right.
What to mention on like like all the stuff that you had on the rim.
Yeah.
What was the other drink that that you had everything sticking to it?
I've had a few drinks.
Because I know that's tough too.
I had mangonadas.
Mangonadas,
yeah,
okay,
and then
yeah.
I stuck the tahini.
Yeah, the
but
tahini, yeah.
I didn't freeze at that time. So yeah, like she was mentioning,
was
like
pouring
it was
off.
pouring, it was
Oh.
melting all
Yeah,
over the
that's-
learned
floor.
from that.
Right,
And
right.
I remember it was all just dripping on our table.
Right.
Oh my gosh, well, this is what I get for being the 36th episode. 'Cause,
Right.
like, now I'm like, oh, I got the good drink.
Hey,
Right, it's
hey.
perfected.
Yes, exactly.
Perfected.
Like I said, it's good. Everybody tries a different drink, so we
Yeah.
get
Right.
different reactions.
Although I'm
so.
a bit of the baby in the group because I have the
Yeah.
I have the virgin pina colada.
Hey, it's all good.
And, without the whipped cream, which looks very fun.
Hey.
I'm very sensitive.
We just want
Yeah, it's
you. We
fine.
just want you to enjoy with us.
Yeah.
It's going to
Right.
be a good podcast.
Yeah,
So,
I love
hey,
this.
we
This
we
is
had to
like
provide
top-
you a we had to
top
provide
notch.
Yeah, thank
we had to
you.
provide you a drink anyway.
Yeah.
So hey, let's go ahead and do
So
our
sweet.
cheers.
Do
I
a
know.
cheers.
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 All right,
There
to
you
a good
go.
podcast.
To a good podcast.
Gonna get this first taste
So
in.
impressed.
yeah.
It is so good.
That is good.
That is like what I like. Like I'm like,
Yeah.
I didn't even know what I was walking into. You told me there was gonna be a drink.
Yes.
And I was like, cool. I'm excited for this. And then I was like, wait, it's like a pina colada, which
Yes.
is like one of my favorites. So
Hey,
damn.
hey.
somehow the universe
Gotta set the vibe, you
Yes,
know?
there we go. Hey, Artistry Drop is setting, a
Sets
different.
the
Yeah, it
vibe,
sets the
guys.
vibe. You know, we're
this
trying
is
to
different.
It's different.
I've been on. I was saying before we started, I've been on so many podcasts, and no one has ever made me a drink like this.
Oh,
We
really?
appreciate it.
Yeah.
We
Oh, I
appreciate
appreciate
it.
it.
You know,
Thank
thank
you.
out.
Thank you again
Thank
for
you.
we appreciate you coming on the show, and
Oh,
we
of
appreciate
course.
all the kind words, of course. So
Yes, sir.
hey, hopefully everybody out there, Artistry Drop is coming up. So hey,
Yeah,
Yes,
guys,
sir.
pay attention, okay? Pay attention.
Thank
you don't
you,
get pina
thank you.
coladas everywhere.
Exactly.
That's true.
Exactly.
That is true.
Exactly.
That is true.
All right, so we're gonna dive in now. So I know this is a generic question. I'm sure you get asked all the time, but hey, you're on our show. We gotta let our
Yeah.
viewers know, of course.
Yeah,
but
tell
we're
me.
gonna take it back. We want to know, how did you get your start in music, and was it something that kind of just came natural to you?
Yeah, so when I was a kid, I would write songs. I didn't realize really I was writing songs, but one of my friends from back in the day more recently started singing me a melody and was like,
Oh, really?
and the lyrics too. And she was like, "Do you remember this song?" And in my head, I was thinking, I'm like, "Yeah, I totally remember it. Like I could sing every word." I was thinking like it must have been just like a jingle from a commercial back in the day.
Okay.
And then she was like, "No, you wrote that. Like, do you remember you wrote that?" And I'm like, no, I have no recollection of writing it, but I do remember the song, which is so funny. So I guess even when I was like in first, second grade, I was writing songs, but
Oh,
like
damn.
I didn't really even
Of
realize
course,
it. And
yeah.
like my family and we would make up songs sort of as jokes. Like
Okay.
my dad and my brother and I remember we marched around the house in the backyard singing a
Yeah.
song we made called the Juicy Juice Parade.
Juicy
I
Juice
still remember it. It was
Parade.
like, it's a juicy juice parade. And we were like walking it. And that we would just like make up these songs about stupid stuff.
Yeah.
That could be a theme song.
That sounds like
yeah.
me.
That's
the
pretty
honest-
catchy.
That sounds like me just making up random stuff as well. Because
Yeah.
he knows, and my girlfriend Rachel knows. Like, I'll just randomly come up with like weird words and stuff and implement it into a song. So
Yeah.
hey,
Well,
I
to be
feel
honest,
you on
I
that.
think some of it like might have came from my dad, although he's a doctor and he's not a musician. I mean, he
Oh,
is
really?
now. Like he's been getting more into it later in life. Like he picked up the ukulele and
Okay.
he's been trying to like play and listen and sing along and he's
Tap
been
in,
getting
yeah.
good. Yeah.
Yeah.
But back when I was a kid, he was a doctor. He wasn't in music, but
Right,
he
right.
would like I said, we'd make up like silly songs together.
Yeah.
And so like I remember once, I still remember some of them. It's so funny, like it makes you think of like the power of a melody.
Right.
It's so strong that it's like you can remember that when you can't remember anything else. Like
Exactly.
even my grandma with Alzheimer's, she can sing songs from her childhood when she can't speak. She can't. She doesn't. I don't even know if she knows who I am. But, like,
Right.
but yet she's singing like a song from her childhood or a
right.
melody or something, and I'm like,
Exactly.
wow, it just kind of sticks in your
Yeah.
brain.
Yeah.
But I remember at one point I was with my friends and I was like, oh, I'm gonna go to the bathroom or whatever. And my dad was like, my name is Kara Connolly. Will you please excuse me while I go and take a pee? Like sing stuff like that. And then my friends would be
Damn.
like, yeah, Kara, like and they'd sing it to me. And
It's catchy. It's
I
catchy.
still
It's
remember
catchy, yeah.
it. Yeah,
Yeah.
so I think like maybe that's where part of it came from was
Yeah.
like we just did that.
Yeah.
And so my friend and I used to live in Arizona as a kid, and we would
okay.
go to the park and we would call ourselves the Sugar Girls, and which sounds like inappropriate.
Yeah,
today.
Sugar Girls.
yes,
right.
if you think about it today, yes,
Yeah.
today.
And we would like stand on the benches and we would sing cover songs for people, and so that was like pretty.
What kind of cover songs were you singing?
Like Britney Spears, Spice Girls, NSYNC, Shania Twain.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
All the upcoming bands.
Yeah, exactly. At the time,
Yeah.
No Backstreet Boys.
Eventually, I probably got into the Backstreet Boys. There was a period. I think I was into their Millennium album.
Yes,
I remember.
yes.
I thought it was great.
Yeah.
But it was.
But NSYNC was popping though.
No,
NSYNC was popping.
I loved NSYNC.
I'm a Backstreet Boys fan. Like I went to the
tour.
I went to one of their first tours when they first came out because 90.
Oh, wow.
It was 98.
He's a little old.
I am a little old, but but yeah, it was 98 when Backstreet Boys first dropped their album, their self-titled album, and then NSYNC had just come out as well. So it was like
they
definitely
were kind of competing.
Yeah, they were
time.
competing and stuff, and but I don't know, Backstreet Boys just kind of grew on me. Like I loved watching their music videos. I'm still a Backstreet Boys fan up to today.
To be honest, I was this is gonna sound terrible. I'm sorry, NSYNC, but I was an NSYNC fan back in the day. I think it was just because that was the album I got my hands on first.
Which one?
Their first one.
Just a self-titled album?
Yeah, self-titled. And with the It's Tearing Up
Yeah,
My Heart.
of course.
Yeah. And that was the one. But to be honest, when I listen back now, I actually think the Backstreet Boys had better songs.
There you go.
Damn.
Yes.
I hate. This is probably like an unpopular take.
Yeah.
But I feel like listening to the Millennium album, it's so good.
It is
and
good.
I don't really feel like any of the NSYNC albums.
I Want It That Way. You
quite-
have
yeah,
hits
I mean,
on
come
hits.
on, come on.
Oh yeah, I wanted that.
Larger Than Life.
Larger Than Life,
Come
yes.
on.
I gotta re-listen it.
Yeah.
Listen
But
to it
like the
'cause
NSYNC didn't like. I guess they had Bye Bye Bye. I felt what I felt about NSYNC was that like every album had like one or two like really
So their
stand
No
out.
Strings Attached album, which was like Bye Bye Bye, that was their best album in my opinion. That's what I would say.
Yeah, that has like the most of like
It's Gonna Be Me.
Okay,
and,
it's gonna be May.
Yeah, it's gonna be May.
But like, that one was pretty solid.
Yes.
But I just feel like Millennium, like looking back, was like
Definitely.
is such a solid record.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, but yeah, they were. I was into them, and I was into all that kind of stuff. The Mandy Moores of the world. I was really into Madonna too, because my mom would listen to Madonna, so I would like sing like older songs from the '80s even.
That's dope.
Like
That's
that I
awesome.
just kind of like heard, later in life or later in the years. Yeah, so I would kind of just like sing these songs, and then I remember when I was really young, we went on a family cruise trip, cruise ship, whatever. Either way, I guess they both work. And there was a talent show, and I was like, I'm gonna enter, and my family was like, okay, like sure, if you want to, I guess I sang, but like very loosely.
Okay.
And so I sang. I think I was about 6 years old, and I sang Shania Twain's "Man, I Feel Like a Woman" on the cruise ship. And I remember
That's kind of badass.
Kind of right.
Yeah.
I was like, no, I'm singing that song, and they're like, okay. And then I had one of those like little like clips in my hair, like my hair was up in a clip. And I remember like taking it out and like shaking my hair.
You were going all out.
It's so funny. Like when I was up until I was like probably in like 3rd or 4th grade, I felt like way more mature than I even did like later in life. Like when I was like from 2nd grade to 5th grade, like I feel like I was just like.
You thought you knew it all.
I thought I knew it all.
Yeah.
I had all the confidence in the world, and then I don't know where it all went, like down the toilet. Like, I don't know. Like I had so much confidence. I remember just being like,
I'm sure you still got that confidence. So
I mean, somewhere in me, I have it. But
I know
it's
you
had
have
to
it.
go in like waves.
Yeah,
like
right.
I feel like up until about like 3rd grade, I had like this, just like I kind of just was like, this is who I am, and like I don't care what people think. And then the world kind of gets in the way of that, right?
Of course,
and I think that's what happened. Is like then I went through a phase.
I mean, as you get older too, like you kind of like overthink because you know all these different factors, and stuff like that. So as a kid, you're like, I'm gonna do this, and that's it.
Yeah.
You're
and
not
you don't
worried
even
about
think like you're like, who cares if people don't like it?
Exactly.
Like I wasn't even thinking about that.
Exactly.
But then like a few years go by and you're like, oh, people could think
Yeah,
this sucks.
Yeah. Hey, imagine if like everything was filmed back then and put on the internet, and you look back and reflect at everything that we all I feel like everybody's just gonna hate themselves. Like,
Oh
I mean,
yeah,
honestly,
it's probably for the best that these were
it
not
is.
filmed.
No, exactly. Yes.
Nowadays it would have been.
No, I know.
But
yes.
like, you know, it's so funny because then later in life, I actually did go on another cruise ship where I entered a talent show competition, like a karaoke thing.
Okay.
And I sang Fergalicious.
Oh,
and like
damn.
I won that talent show.
That's crazy.
Too. I think I won both of them, like as a kid, because I think people just thought it was so funny.
Yeah.
Right.
And then
Okay, yeah.
probably too singing Fergalicious. I don't know. Maybe people were just not expecting me to sing Fergalicious.
Yeah. Wait, when did this happen?
I was probably like 15.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
You need a lot of confidence for that song.
Well,
Yeah.
I know, and I was with. I think that was a maybe like I shouldn't say this now, but like I'm already here.
Right.
I think that was probably like a drunk decision. I was 15, but like definitely drunk on a cruise ship because I went to. I mean, this kind of goes back to your question, but like when I was in second grade, I was actually an actor,
Okay.
and I booked my first movie, so I had to miss a lot of the second grade. So when I came back, I was like. I was in a movie, like, you know, and then like all these kids would like ask me questions about it. The teacher like made me go up for show and tell to talk about like the movie I was in. That's probably the coolest I've ever been.
You're the shit at that point.
Like I have never ever been cooler than second grade. Like,
hey, that's awesome.
I seriously peaked in second grade.
Damn.
Because like that was like when I felt like I just had so much confidence and I was like, I'm gonna sing this song. Like, I was in a movie. What now? Like, but like now I do not feel like that at all. But like, so anyway, I'm also in film and acting, and when I was in high school, I went to an acting camp at the UCLA for acting for film and TV.
Okay.
And I met this one friend of mine. I went with one of my friends from my high school, and she was like one of my childhood friends. We both went together, and then we met this girl there. And while we were there, she was like, "Hey, do you want to come to Cabo with me and my family next week?"
Oh, damn.
And we were like, well, shit, like we've only known this girl for 5 days.
Yeah, that's crazy.
But we were like, that'd be awesome, right? Because we're
Right.
like 15, so we're like, that'd be awesome. And then we're like, how do we convince our parents, right?
Right.
So we're like, hey, we got invited to Cabo, and they're like, well, we don't even know this family. We've never even met this girl. We're like, no, we met the family like at the camp. They're like super chill, super cool, like very responsible.
right.
We definitely did not meet the family.
Yeah, right.
And so we somehow like get to go to like I don't know how both of our parents were like, yeah, that'll be fine as long as like the family's like taking like I think they were just trying to be like cool and nice.
Yeah.
And so we get there, and it was not my. They would not have been happy with that trip because like we get to they're dropping us off at the cruise ship, and the mom is like drinking like she's like has like a carton of orange juice and is like winking like this is an orange juice. And like,
damn.
yeah, and so like it ended up being like we could get like we're on this cruise at 15 years old and like everybody's just giving us like
gotcha.
alcohol, you know.
Yeah.
That's why I had to do a little explaining.
Okay,
I was not
okay.
just like typical.
I was gonna say
So that's how the Fergalicious
That's
came
how
about.
Fergalicious came about because like I was not a kid. I wasn't like drinking in high school.
Yeah.
Like it,
Right.
that's why I had to clarify.
Yes,
because like
thank you for clarifying.
I was not just like a party girl. Like I was like really actually very like studious and
Yes.
like didn't drink. Like that was probably my first time ever drinking. Same with my friend. She was the same way. And we didn't know better. Like we don't know. They're just like, hey, like everyone's just handing us pina coladas. Speaking of pina coladas, this story.
So this reminds you of your peak of
this is where it
Fergalicious.
so this is where full circle. So we had a little too many pina coladas in Cabo San Lucas. Went out onto Cabo, went to Cabo Wabo, rode horses, came back like such a. I have never. My life has never been.
Were you
this
tipsy that
crazy
whole
since.
time?
Yeah.
Damn, that's
And, like,
crazy.
We ended up in like pictures. I'm like, this is horrible. Like, definitely not going to be on Disney Channel after this. But like we ended up being in like so many photos. I don't know if you've ever been on a cruise ship.
Not yet.
No,
I've been
never
wanting
been,
to.
yeah.
I've
Yeah,
been
so
wanting
like
to.
there's somebody there taking like pictures with backdrops like all over the cruise, and they put it in like a gallery where at the end you
Everybody
can like
can see
buy
it?
Yeah.
Oh, you can buy it,
Like you
okay.
could buy physical copies, whatever. So at the end, I remember we went to the gallery and we were like, oh my God, we're in like hundreds of pictures with like different groups of people, like bachelor parties, like.
Did you photobomb a lot?
Oh yeah, well, they're just like all like, and we're like, we don't even like really remember these moments, like, because I mean, it was kind of like a booze cruise, like, and I don't think that's how we pitched it. Like, we definitely were like, this is super responsible. Like, we're just gonna be like going out on the beach, like looking at like touristy things. That was not it. Sorry, mom and dad.
Okay, they don't know this, and
no, they know. I told them now. Like, I don't think I told them right after, but like later, I was like, by the way, that cruise was like insane, and they were like, oh God, like we don't want to know this, right? And I think even after, my friends' parents the whole time were thinking like, oh, this was a mistake. Like they were panicking for like 5 days while we're on this cruise, and I'm singing Fergalicious, and I remember having like a fedora, something about like hair ripping off fedoras and hat and like whatever, but like
the hair clip.
The reason we picked Fergalicious is because like I could always sing the rap in Fergalicious, where she's like the whole like, every time I turn around, brothers gather around, I was looking at me up and down, looking at my, oh, I just want
you remember it all even up to today.
And so I just was like, Fergalicious, like go to, give it to me now, and, like, and somehow like came out on top. But I think I've just always kind of loved performing, and you know,
it's just with you.
Whether that's like film, whether that's songwriting. I mean, now I've done it much more seriously than my drunk Fergalicious.
Of course, of course.
And in your second grade years.
Second grade.
It's the growth. It's the growth, you know.
You guys, I started from the bottom. Now
you're here. Hey, that's awesome.
I'm on artistry.
Hey, now you're here. Hey, that was an awesome story. I love it.
Oh my God, I've never told that story because like I'm usually
we got
like
that
a little,
exclusive.
Because I talk about it all the time with my friends because I'm like, do you remember how freaking crazy this was?
Right.
And like we're just all just like, that was crazy. But like I don't talk about it publicly because
on Artistry Job, we want everybody, anything goes. Like, we're open to hearing anything.
Guys, I swear I'm like really chill. Like,
we try to set the vibe on Artistry Job. We want, and there's been a lot of times people have even told us, this is the first time I'm sharing this. It's like, hey, you know what? This is the place you can share that.
Exactly.
Well, now here I am with my virgin peanut butter. We've come full circle. There's a lot of growth here.
She had a relapse over 15 years.
Hey, it's awesome.
Thank
you for sharing that story.
That was awesome. That was awesome.
Super entertaining though. No, we love it. We love it.
Honestly, so crazy. But like, then I just kept, I think I was writing songs about things I knew nothing about. Like truly, like I remember I would like be like, I think there were some Jennifer Lopez songs or something, and I was like, I should write a song like this. I don't know anything about like these things. Like, and I can still remember those songs too, where I was probably like 7 or 8 years old, like writing something that's like I've wrote a song about being cheated on, and I think that's just because what I was hearing in the culture and like the songs I was listening to, and so I wrote this song. I'm like, I was 7 years old. I've never been in a relationship at this point, and I'm like talking about this dude playing me. And then I got to high school and I was like so bored out of my mind in math class that I started actually writing about like real things going on in my life. Like I was like, okay. Let me just like write some lyrics about what I'm actually going through, because I honestly just don't want to be in math class. You know?
Right. No, we definitely have some questions about your songwriting eventually. We're not going to get into that yet.
No, so anyway, I don't know. That's a very short, like, I keep going from there.
No, you're good. You're good. Hey, we love tangents.
For sure. I'm a tangent girl.
No, you're good.
But that was a good story.
No, it was.
That was a great story.
Hey, we get on tangents all the time.
We went from second grade to 15 to Fergalicious to how your performance started. That was a good story.
It happens. We love that story.
And ironically, that's still my one drunk performance ever. Like, I know a lot of like artists go up and like they purposely drink. Like, even how you were saying, sometimes it's nice to have a drink during a podcast to like get yourself easing up and listening and talking. I feel like I have a lot of artist friends that'll like take some shots before performing just to like loosen up. Like, I don't do that. I always perform like 100% sober. Although now that I'm recalling Fergalicious, I'm like, man, that maybe I should do.
Hey, you never know. I mean, you might have to try it once, maybe in a smaller performance, you know, and see how it goes. But hey, we definitely love that story. Thank you for telling us that.
Yes, sir.
We got the exclusive, guys.
Exclusive scoop.
Never being told again.
Never being told again. We got that.
I instantly regret it.
No worries. Like I said, everybody can be open on artistries, man. No worries.
Yeah.
All right, so you know, I had read you went to USC for dramatic arts, but
did,
you know,
yeah.
kind of like what you talked about. It doesn't seem like you had went to school for it. Did you go to USC for music or?
I went to USC for acting.
Okay.
I did, yeah, and I actually went through a couple different like majors during my college years. At one point, I was a film production major,
Nice.
which I know that you went to film school.
I went to
yeah.
film school, yeah.
I heard that in your podcast, but and then I also went to school. So I did that. Then I was a screenwriting major.
Nice.
Oh,
Then at one point I was like going to be a communications journalism major, but then I was like, you know what? Like I'm actually want to be an actress. Like that's why I came out to LA. So I was like, why don't I just major in the thing that I actually want to do? And I think I was hesitant to do that at first because I was like, well, I've already taken like acting classes. Like also you don't really need a degree to be an actor. So I was like,
facts,
like, and I was already like taking acting classes out in the city with like certain acting coaches and stuff. So I was like, I kind of am getting that training.
Right.
I don't necessarily need to go to a university for it because I'm already kind of practicing it with like auditions and stuff. So I was like, maybe I'll go for all these other things and like I'll learn the other side, like the production side or the screenwriting side or like other things that would be useful that like I don't actually currently, do.
Right.
But then eventually I was just like, this is what I want to do. Like, I feel like I'm beating around the bush. Like, I should just be an acting major because like that's actually what I care about. You know?
Exactly.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Going back to the music side of things, who were or is still like one of your biggest influence when it comes to music?
So I definitely, and I feel like everybody says this, so I'm always like hesitant to say it because I'm like, God, everyone says this, but I just like love Taylor Swift.
Oh, okay.
Big Taylor fan.
You're the first one that said it on the artist.
Oh, really? Okay. That makes me feel good.
No,
about myself.
you're good.
We
good.
actually always mention Taylor Swift because of her cinematography. Her music
I love
videos.
the cinematography and
well,
her
that's
music
why
videos.
I'm such a big fan of hers because to me she wrote about where she was in her life at each point that she made a record. Like they're really true to the like age she was and what she was feeling. Like you can tell that it's not like three male songwriters writing these songs. Like this is actually like her at 15, her at or 16, her at 19, her at 22. Like you can feel that versus like there are other young artists that I didn't feel that from. Like, and as a kid like growing up listening to Taylor Swift was like big for me. I just felt like, wow, this is somebody who's sharing their truth and they're not being concerned with like what's necessarily like the trend.
Yeah.
Right.
Ironically, she became the trend. So now everybody, that is a trend.
Right.
But at the time it wasn't, and I think that was really cool. And also what I really admire about her is that she's kind of understands like the whole picture.
Yeah, she does.
Like from like the outfits for each record and like the photo shoots and the music videos and like the visuals and like how to kind of create fun fan events. Like she's just kind of like a visionary in that way. That to me, for her, like it's beyond the music for me. It's just like everything she does. I think she thinks about it from a really smart way perspective. Going back to branding, because I was telling you all that I love the branding of the artistry drop. But like that, I noticed that kind of stuff. And even as a kid, like a younger, kid or adult or whatever, I noticed that stuff. Like I'd be like, oh man, like this album's so cool because the vibe is like this and like the tour is this. And like I could tell how she was specifically like really leading that. I didn't feel like, even other artists that I like love their music, some of them didn't quite like hit those things.
Right.
So to me, she's just like, whoa, like she really somehow found a way to like tell a whole visual universe with each, and she does it over and over over again, where you're getting like a country record to like a pop country record to like a sort of rock country pop, then she goes to pop, then she goes to folk, then like she kind of just reinvents herself over and over and over again. But because she understands songwriting and because she understands visuals and like branding, it works.
It does.
Whereas if somebody didn't, and she still keeps it true to herself because it's like the music, it comes from the music first for her.
Right.
And I think like other people who've tried to switch genres with records don't always do it as well. Like you're like, oh, this kind of didn't hit, or you're just like, oh man, this is kind of doesn't feel true to this person. Like somehow it's so different from where they were that it almost feels unbelievable. She's just like, I don't know, she's brilliant. Like she's just a very smart businesswoman. On top of being like very talented as well, but like I don't know, I'm just like bow to Taylor.
Taylor is
sure.
great, and we worked with our first country artist last year for her music video.
Oh, that's
and,
cool.
Yeah, and you know, when I was going through trying to get some inspiration and shot listing and stuff like that, I used Taylor a lot because her videos are just amazing. Like the way she goes about her cinematography, it was crazy. So that's why I used a majority of her like videos for a lot of my inspiration when shooting our country artists, because that's
cool.
what she was really trying to go for.
Right.
You know, she was really trying to
That storytelling kind of
exactly. You know, and that's why I was like, you know what, Taylor really
good
had
reference.
Yeah, she's definitely a good reference.
Well, and the thing is, I think at some point you really start to realize this has to be Taylor, because a lot of people at first gave her a lot of hate of like, oh, this can't be her. She's got this team and it's all everybody else, and other people are writing her songs, and people like didn't want to believe that it could be this young woman.
Right.
Which was kind of like, I don't know why, but people tend to underestimate everybody, right?
Oh, yeah,
and so I
for
think
sure.
people were like, no, there's no way.
Yeah.
It's got to be. And I think that throughout, what I think is so cool about her, like, you know, from being a fan from her very first record to now, it's like, I think she's really proven, because she's worked with so many different writers, different producers, different cinematographers, different teams, different directors, that like, no, she's running the ship, because there's no way that like every single product
she knows
ends up
exactly
great.
what she wants.
Exactly. She does. Yeah.
Yeah, like if you have enough people where you're like, oh no, they're all great, and the only like unifying factor is Taylor, like you're like, oh, she's like, she knows what she's doing.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I would say for me, like, you know, Taylor has always been there. Like, I've always, you know, I've listened to her songs here and there, but after she dropped the Bad Blood music video.
Oh, you love Bad Blood.
I love Bad Blood. No, but it was the music
pretty
video.
badass.
It was badass. Like, after I watched that video, I was like, this is a lot of like, you know, my inspiration for cinematography, filmmaking comes from.
It's a cool video.
It is.
No, it
and
is,
I know, you know, I watched some of the behind the scenes. There's really not a lot behind the scenes on that video, because tried looking for it, but what I did see is what I did see is she did have a lot of ideas and concepts for it. So it's so crazy that, you know, like everything was coming from Taylor, because I feel like a lot of artists, they're not fully invested.
They're not as hands-on.
they're
And some
not
of them
fully
don't want to
invested.
be. Like, sometimes they're like, please just come
do
up
it.
with this video, do it. I'll show up on set. And like, that's fine. But I think as a fan, you can kind of see when there's like, oh, the artist is a part of all of it. Like, because you're like, oh, this video feels cool. Well, it's because I like the mind behind it. Because I like the person who made the music. They're probably going to know what to do with their video too. But some people, I get it. You're busy. They're on tour. They don't want to do the video. Like, and a lot of artists are like that. They're like, please just do it. Like, I don't want to do it. But I think for me, like, I've always really wanted to be that artist that controls the ship. Like, I'm like, I want to be the one to be like, this is my music video idea. This is how, like, I feel the vibe's gonna be. And like, sometimes I think, unfortunately, like, you don't want to be controlling, right? Because you want to have collaborators and let them have a say.
Exactly.
But you also want to achieve the vision that you have at the end of the day, because you're like, I have this vision, and it also comes from my art and like what I'm doing, and like it's important to me that it like feels like me. But yeah, I think that's the one thing is like, Taylor's a really strong person.
No, she is,
She's
like,
a badass.
like, and she doesn't really take shit from people. Like, I kind of wish I could be more like that, to be honest. I think like part of me admires that, because I'm like, man, I can't. It's hard to be that. Like, you know, she just is kind of like, nope, this is how it is, and like, I think she, you know, she gets some love and gets some hate for that, right?
But
you need to tap into that second grade version of you.
She has that like powerful confidence that like sometimes I can tap into, but that at other points I'm like, oh, I just want everyone to be friends. Like, you know what I mean? Like, oh, whatever makes you all happy. Right. But then I think at the end of the day, I try to like kindly direct it always back to my vision, because I'm like, okay, I'm like, let's take this idea from yours. And then I'm like, what about if we come here for this and like maybe change this shot around to this?
Exactly.
And like, it's a compromise, right? And it's a collaboration. So I always try to think of it as a collaboration.
That's 100%. That's exactly what I love working with, because you know, when we've worked with all kinds of artists, rappers, singers, and you know, country artists, of course, you know, and stuff like that. And I want to say, like, you know, majority of our artists that we've worked with, you know, they have little say. It's based off of all, you know, my mind and whatever ideas
you guys do a lot of
it. You know, and but that's why, like, I would say, like, if working with a artist like Taylor, and I would love that.
Right.
Push me around, do whatever you
Yeah.
want. I would prefer that way than, you know, a lot of ideas coming from me. And then, you know, after looking back at a rough cut and saying, no, I don't like this.
Yeah.
Well, guess what? Like, why
What
weren't you?
would you do then?
Yeah, what would you do?
Well,
you
that's
know?
what I think. If I'm ever gonna say this isn't right, or like, or I tend not to say it like that. I tend to be more like, I tend to give very specific notes, like minute 131.
That's perfect.
There's this, and move it to
I love
minute
that.
145.
Yeah.
Like, I'm super specific
Yeah, I
because
love that.
I found that if you're not, sometimes people don't like. If you're just like, I don't like the vibe of this, like, then well, it's like this is what
Exactly.
this person did. Like, what do you expect them to do then? Like, like if I'm ever gonna criticize, I almost will spend like several hours just watching it over and over till I know what I would do differently. Because otherwise you don't really get what you want unless you can come in and be like, this is exactly what I think's not working. This is what the solution could be. If you're coming in without a solution, I would just expect to keep getting more and more stuff that you're not digging. Right? So I've kind of found that, but I didn't realize how I don't know, I hope controlling is not the word, but like how much I would care about, like, until I did my first music video.
Okay.
I didn't quite realize like how much I was going to be wanting to be like really a part of it all, because I saw a cut for the video and it wasn't exactly what I envisioned. Like the song, it's my song Life in Review, and the chorus is kind of soaring, and I always envisioned like the driving. I always envisioned the driving part to be on like the soaring part of the song, and then when it's parking, like maybe it's a verse. But in the cut I saw, they were parking the car like just as the chorus started, and I was like, this doesn't feel. It feels like you need to be in the car during the during the chorus, and so I was really kind of like pushing for that, but I didn't realize until I saw a cut that was not quite what I was envisioning, that like I had such a strong vision for it. So I didn't maybe articulate it at the beginning of like, and the edit needs to be like this, because that was my first music video ever. And I kind of just assumed like, oh yeah, everyone's gonna see it like that. Like everyone's gonna get that like the chorus needs to be like soaring, but then you realize no, not everyone sees things the same way, especially with art. Like and there wasn't a right or wrong. Theirs was much more of like almost like a film noir vibe. Like it was much more, and I just wanted it like more fast paced and fun, and like soaring on the chorus and the story, and I just had a different vision for it, right? But then I was like, oh shoot, okay, I need to like convey in advance that I'm gonna be like really involved in the processes of these videos, because it can be surprising to somebody that's like not used to a hands-on artist. That's just like, I thought I was just gonna do a cut and you were gonna love it and be done with it.
It doesn't work out like that. Experience.
When we work with people, like, that's why pre-production is so key. Like when we meet with the artists, we encourage them to be hands-on, because that eliminates so many like rough cuts, so many unknown communication, and a lot of like less back and forth. So we always have a meeting, talk with them, see what they think about, like, you know, like you were saying, like from the chorus to the next verse, you know, what they have,
the vibe,
what they envision. And sometimes like they don't know, like they don't have any vision, and we kind of like try to dig things out of them. It was like,
because you're like, I want them to know, because I don't want to do this whole thing and then have them be like, this isn't it.
Exactly.
And you're like, well, you didn't tell me what is it. There's endless numbers of colors, and even in that, like, there's endless. If you even say like, oh, I want pink or whatever, there's like a billion shades of pink. What shade of pink, right? Like there's so much room for interpretation.
Exactly.
That you almost, like, the clearer you can get. And now I'll show like vision boards or whatever. Like I'm just try to be as clear as possible up front now, because I'm like, I know I have a vision for it, and I know I'm not if I don't convey that I'm gonna become that annoying artist, which I don't ever want to be.
Of course,
So I'm always just like, okay, up front, like I'm like, here's the vibe I want. This is what I like. It's examples for the makeup, like examples for the this, like because even I've learned that sometimes saying it without providing maybe a visual example, people have different visions in their head. Like when you're like, okay, I'm gonna be doing green eyeshadow and you know, peach lips or whatever. Like to you that might mean something else than it means to me. Of like, oh, I thought you were gonna have like dark green all around your face, and then you know, but to me I'm like, no, I meant like a mint, like light green with like a whatever, and and I'm not super heavy. Like there's just so much room for like misinterpretation that I've just learned that like the more clear you can be up front, the more symbiotic it's gonna be.
And that's amazing to hear, because like I said, working with artists that don't really know what they want, solely base any ideas that we have on us, because you know there's been so many times where you're like, hey, what ideas do you have? And I'll be like, oh, you know, let me write down whatever, I send it over to them, you know, like a concept or whatever, send it over to them, and they'll be like, oh yeah, that's amazing. And we're like, okay, you know, are you sure you don't want to add any of your flair to it? And I'm like, no, that looks amazing. I'll go into the shot list, make my shot list, send it over and over. What you know, if they like the shot list, we go into production.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's move forward.
And once we get into production, and then I go into post production, do my first cut. No, move this around. I'm like,
you're like, wait, you approved all this.
Yeah, exactly. You know, so I love the fact that you know exactly what you want, because there's not a lot of artists. There's not a lot of artists that do that.
Yeah,
I feel like, you know,
I think some of it is just like, I don't know, like sometimes I'm just like, no, I understand how some of this connects, like story wise. Like I'm like, it doesn't really make sense if we just go from like the bar all of a sudden to the park. Like, what is the purpose of this? Like, I always kind of want to know, like, what's the intention of it, right? I don't really.
You're a storyteller.
And it doesn't.
I love that.
And it doesn't necessarily have to be like a linear story. Like I've definitely put out music videos that don't have linear stories. Like the story.
There's a lot of music videos out there that do that.
Yeah.
But you know, I'm exactly like you. I love telling a story and having a storyline. And you know, sometimes we've talked about this before. It's like some people will use the most random locations for their music video, and it's like, how does this tell the story? Does this make sense? You know, like
even I have a music video for my song "Marry Me," where I'm like, I'm on the beach. Oh, you saw it, yeah. And even that doesn't really have like a super linear story in the sense that like a lot of it's just like me in different outfits, like on the beach, like but I intercut it with my cousin's wedding, which has a story the whole time. So you're following that story from like beginning of day to end.
Exactly.
And also like it starts, it's almost like sunrise to sunset for me on the beach, and I'm always on the beach, and it's and in the song it references like we'll say our vows right on the beach, like there was a reason for it.
Exactly.
You always have those reference shots.
It made sense.
So to me it was like, even though that was kind of more of just like a character, just like, or just kind of showing like beautiful shots. There was still a through line to me that made sense versus like, I think at one point we were talking about ideas that didn't really make sense. Like at certain points where you're like, okay, but then why am I suddenly like over by an airplane or like, you know what I'm saying?
Exactly. No, I understand.
And so even for something like that, that you would think is like so simple, because you're like, it's just a video where you're hanging in outfits. It's like, there's still thought that goes into like that.
And I think it's also too like, the type, I'm not gonna bash on any type of film crew and say like, you know, they're not passionate about what they do, but like for us, like it's more than just collecting a check. Like it's, we want to make the best video. Yeah, we care about it.
And you want the video to be great, because that also is a reflect, like you can use that then for your own calling card. Like why waste your time making something that you're like not proud of?
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. So we spend time with the artist to see where their head was at, like during the process of making the song, and really making that vision come to life and elevating on top of the vision that they already had, you know?
Yeah, because you know, one reference I like using, it's because whenever I talk about like, oh yeah, they just like being at random locations, I've seen, you know, I've watched so many music videos out there, and a lot of videographers will just use the most random locations. Like I've seen rap videos where they're rapping. They don't make sense. They're rapping by a garbage can, or you know, there's a shot that they're up top and there's no composition whatsoever. I'm
it's
like
what?
Yeah,
and
it's
some
like,
of it's like they just maybe want it to be easier, like just like quickly make a video.
Exactly.
But to me, the artists that I love are like really thoughtful visually.
Yes.
So I'm like, I'd rather be like a quality than quantity
person.
We're the same
Exactly.
way,
Yeah, and for me, like composition is the most important thing. And I've learned that from photography. You know, when I was doing a lot of photography and stuff like that, like composition is key.
Yeah.
Composition is key to making your shot look amazing.
Oh my God, even
you know?
with photography, like it's so, that's why it's so important to work with like photographers like yourself, like because sometimes you think, oh, I'll just get my friend to do this thing and shoot my album cover or whatever, and then you're like, this would be great if the composition was better, like this is like focused on my feet and not my face, like you can tell like some things you're like, if it was just slightly composed better, this would be like amazing. But but the composition's like kind of not
Yes.
there.
Yes.
And that's where like a professional comes in.
Exactly.
And
And
people
I-
think, oh, like I have an iPhone.
Yeah.
I
Right,
can
right.
shoot my album cover or whatever it is. And
Yeah.
like on one level, yeah, I guess you could. But on the other level, like there is really something to be said about having
Right.
like a professional who understands composition,
Yeah.
who has an eye for like what should be the
Yeah.
focal point of a photo.
Yeah.
Like anyone could just shoot and take a picture,
Exactly.
like of this lava lamp,
Right.
Yeah.
but like someone might take this picture and the focus is on this plant.
Yeah.
Right, right.
And
Yeah.
you're like, but the lava lamp's still in the picture.
Yeah,
And you're
exactly,
like, no, we
exactly.
were trying to like
Go for
capture
the
the
lamp.
lava
Yeah,
lamp.
yeah.
Like, you know what I
Yes.
mean? Like,
No, exactly.
so
I know
that's why I
exactly-
value like that visual, like
And that's
people,
dope
professionals,
that like
yeah.
an artist actually realizes that, because like
Yeah.
that's something that we see, but and we compare our work to of course other photographers
Yeah, sure,
and other
sure,
artists,
sure.
but like that's something that the artist doesn't really see
Yeah.
Well,
most of the time.
sometimes
Yeah.
the artist doesn't always because it's so hard, and I say this with like a lot of love and respect for
Right, right.
artists. Obviously, I am
course,
one,
yeah.
but it's like there's so much for us to do. It's
Oh, yeah.
so expensive.
Oh,
it's
yeah.
so time consuming. Like you're leading like a lot of it as especially as an indie artist.
Right, right.
You're paying for a lot of it. That sometimes artists like will be like try to cut corners and convince themselves like, oh no, it's gonna work out, like because I'm gonna have my friend do this thing and like it's just gonna work out.
Yeah.
And then a lot of my friends realize, oh, that didn't work out,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And then they end up having to like pay more to fix the mistake.
Yes.
Of, like
Right, right.
it happens a lot with indie artists. Like, and
Yeah.
I get it because you're trying your best to like cut corners when
Right,
you
right.
can, and like
Yeah.
it's just expensive and it's time
Yeah, yeah.
consuming. But I think I've learned that's where I became more of like a quality than quantity person because I
Right.
was like, I want to do it right.
Yeah.
Right.
And I want to do it right the first time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you're saving yourself actually a lot of time and money when
Yeah.
you do it right the
On the
first
long-
time.
yeah.
So even if that means like taking a little longer for me to like save up for the right photographer, videographer, or if it means, okay, I'm going to plan a shoot where I then shoot 7 single covers in one because I picked such a good location that it has
Right.
such different things. That cuts the cost. You only have one day of a makeup artist.
Yep.
So you look great because you have a makeup artist.
Yeah.
Right.
One day of the cinematographer, but you get all these shots for your canvas
Yep.
on Spotify.
Right.
Like it's just there's a way to do it if you're not rushing. There's like a way to do it smart,
Yeah.
but then you can't be like impatient about like
Right.
my song needs to come out in 3 days. Like
Yeah.
okay, let's just quick pick this random
Yeah,
thing.
Yeah.
exactly.
And listen, there's something to be said about that too. Like some part of me is like, oh, maybe that would be fun to just be that
Right, right.
like spontaneous
Yeah.
about it. But I've just found for myself that when I really like think more thoroughly about it and plan it, I can actually get stuff that's of better quality
Yeah.
and it also more affordable because I've now like put it all together in
Exactly.
a way that I can use for multiple things because
Yeah.
it was planned really well.
Right.
Versus sometimes I have seen some of my close friends that are artists, which I totally, like I said, understand again. But like it's like, oh man, that shoot didn't work or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, because they tried to cut and they kind of knew like, I don't know if it's gonna work because I'm using my sister or like whatever.
Yeah,
yeah.
You know what I mean? And then they're like, oh shit, it
Yeah.
didn't work.
Yeah,
you know?
100%.
They
ha-
still had to pay for the outfits and
Exactly.
the makeup and like it
Yeah.
might have been cheaper, but now they
Yeah.
might have to do it all over again.
Yes, yeah.
We've had friends like that too
Yeah.
who are artists, and we're
Yeah.
like, you need to slow down.
Yeah.
Really think about the quality of your content because, we understand that you're trying to put something out every month, but it's not quality, you know? And we know like it only takes that one song or that
Yeah.
one project to really blow you out
Yeah.
and, go viral. So if you really spend your time on,
On the
that,
one thing that really you believe
yeah.
in.
Don't think
It'll
about
take you
quantity.
places.
That's
Yeah.
always
Yeah.
been my strategy. Again, I don't know if it's better or worse, but I've always thought like, okay, you know what? Like you said, like focus on making each thing you do really great, even if it takes a little longer.
Right.
So that like people come to expect that from you
Exactly.
versus like just like, oh, kind of a miss, kind of a miss, oh, kind of good. Like,
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
you're
Like,
right.
I just
That's
don't want
facts.
that to be the reaction. Like, I would rather disappear for 4 years and then
Right.
come out with like a Beyonce Lemonade.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
than,
no,
than
for
to be
sure.
the artist that
Yeah.
puts out a song every week that
Yeah.
you're like, that was kind of like, okay. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Like I love the fact you love being part of like the whole production experience and
Yeah.
everything because I feel like, with us, when it comes to filmmaking and stuff, like we don't get that enough. We of
That's
course
true.
we try to dive in and try to get the ideas and everything and dive deep with the artist, but I feel like some artists just can't get to that point.
Sure.
So I
Right.
really love the fact that you love being part of that
Thanks.
production
Yeah.
experience.
No,
So
it's
big
fun to get
props
to talk to you both
Yeah.
about it because you understand because
Yeah.
you
Right.
do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you've been there, you
Yeah.
know, so you know. So it's
Yeah.
fun
Yeah.
to get to be like
No,
spitball about
Yeah,
it.
definitely.
no,
No,
for
thank you.
sure.
Thank you for sharing all that.
Yeah,
so
of course,
you know, outside of
very
outside-
honest, but it's the
no,
truth.
I love it.
No,
I
it is
love
the
it.
truth.
Love the honesty, and like I said, I love hearing artists speak about that. Like,
Yeah.
especially you, because you are one of the first that have actually spoke about, you know, being full into the production and stuff
Yeah,
like
that
that.
is
You
true.
know, like
Yeah.
it's such a rare thing with artists that they want to be part of the production. Especially we had our last guest, Matt Alonso. He's directed Chris Brown music videos
wow,
and all
that's
that.
epic.
So
Yeah.
it's like, you know, he even told us
Wow.
a lot of those artists don't like to be part of the production.
Yeah, I've heard
Right.
that
You
from
know?
a lot of people that like even big superstars
Yeah.
are like, I don't want to know,
Yeah.
like just do it, show up. And
Yeah,
I get it because they're
exactly.
really busy, and sometimes even I get busy and I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't want to do this because
Yeah.
I'm tired. But
Yeah.
like to me, like your image and your visuals are a part of your who you are as an artist.
That is
That's
true.
like sometimes people remember a music like music mixed with the visual more
Right.
than they'll remember just music
Exactly.
by itself.
Yeah.
Because like if you think of like some of our favorite, especially pop songs throughout
Right.
history, a lot of them you can immediately think of the visual with
Yeah.
it.
Right,
like,
right, exactly.
You know, I love Shania Twain's first, or not first record, but like her big record, Come On Over, and like I think
Yeah.
of like her and the cheetah, like she had that
Right,
outfit
right.
with like the leopard, and it was like it's so iconic.
Yeah.
It's like you can't. They're
Yeah.
mirrored together, those
Oh, yeah,
the
for
song
sure.
and the image. Same with like if you think of Toxic by Britney,
Right,
you
right.
think of her on the airplane with
Airplane,
the
yeah.
blue
Yeah.
outfit.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
you can't get out. It's part. That's part of what made
Exactly.
that song so
Yeah,
iconic. So
exactly.
like
Yeah.
to me, if you're not involved with that, like artists, again, no hate. Some people don't want to be involved, and I
Right.
get it. But it's like that is who you are too. Like how
Right.
the image and like the stories that your visuals tell, like just in the way that a film, you know, people care about the stories of a
Exactly.
film and
Exactly.
the visuals, like that adds to who you are and
Exactly.
what your artistry is. And
Yeah.
so to me, like to not be a part of that would just feel like I'm not, you know, being true to like who I am or valuing that part of myself as an artist.
yeah.
But that said, sometimes it makes it take longer to get stuff
Right,
out.
exactly.
No,
So
thank you.
there's
Yeah.
not a better or worse.
Yeah,
Some
no,
people would
no.
be like,
It's a give or
Kara,
take.
like just get some music
Exactly,
out.
exactly.
You know, and
Yeah,
like
yeah,
who
yeah.
cares about that?
Yeah.
So like just let someone make you something and
Yeah.
put it out, and we
Yeah.
get way more songs that you write.
Exactly.
I just can't. Like it's like
Yeah.
physically hurts me to do
Yeah,
that.
no, I
Exactly.
feel it. I feel it. Definitely. But thank you again, you know, sharing all your thoughts on that because,
Yeah.
you know, as like filmmakers and stuff, like we definitely love talking to artists about that, especially when they've already, you know, filmed their music videos. We like hearing their aspect of, you know, music videos. And I would have to say your aspect has definitely been the best. Like, you
Right,
know,
right.
I
Oh,
just
thank
love
you. That's
yeah.
cool to hear.
No, I just love that you love being part of,
No, that's
you know,
cool.
that.
Sometimes I worry that I like I'm overstepping.
No,
on
no,
it.
no,
No,
no.
no.
It's
like,
great.
but I'm like, but I don't. I'd rather be like in part of it and collaborating than later be like, this is wrong, and
Yeah.
then everybody's pissed and
Exactly.
is like, what? We
Yeah.
just put like
Yeah.
20 hours into this and now it's not right.
Yeah.
I'd rather be like, no, let's just like do this together
Yeah.
from the start,
Yeah.
and like
Yeah.
we're all gonna be happy.
Yeah.
And ever since
Yeah.
I've done that, everything's
Exactly.
gone smooth sailing.
Exactly.
But yeah.
I always say that. I always say
But
that.
I do that with my music as well. Like when I work with music
Producers,
yeah,
yeah.
I tend to be very like minute 1 to 2, like add a banjo or like, you know what I mean? Or
Right.
like I'm very like, okay, take this vocal down 1 dB. Like I
Yeah.
just get with the mix, with the production, like I get really in it, but I
Yeah.
don't want to give a note unless like I said, I know how to fix it,
Yeah.
because I'm not
That's
just gonna
dope,
be
yeah.
like, this isn't working,
Yeah.
kind of like lame. It's like,
Yeah.
well, because I know sometimes you don't know how to
Yeah.
explain or whatever, like just not hitting right.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I have to sit there. I'm like, that notes is not that helpful because
Yeah.
someone's gonna have to then go, why isn't it hitting right?
Right, right.
And they might make a choice that's not actually what you were feeling.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I usually end up sitting there and go like, why isn't this hitting
Yeah.
right? Okay, well, I think for me it's probably that the drums are too low.
Yeah.
Or I think it's probably that we need like a fill coming into the chorus. Or hey, I'll be like, hey, why don't you try adding a drum fill into the chorus? Or
Yeah.
why
Yeah.
don't you try adding some higher end because it feels like really heavy right now? Like,
Right, exactly.
And like, so I always want to have I'm not gonna bring up a problem unless I can like sit there and really think of the solution.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
and that's good criticism too, just
Yeah,
in
it is.
general. You know, I come from a dance background, so like
that's cool.
a lot of times, you know, we're judging these people who are at battles or at performances and stuff like that. And if you judge somebody but you don't have a solution,
them to make it better,
make it
yeah.
better, then you're just like
The worst is when someone's just
talking
like, it
down on
doesn't
them.
work.
Yeah, exactly.
And you're like, but why?
Yeah.
Exactly.
And I've had that criticism too, where I'm like, what do you think about this song? And they're just like, not really working for me. And I'm like, but okay, but can you express
Exactly.
why, right? Because it's not helpful to just be like, not my favorite.
Yeah.
And it's like, on some level, it might just not be your favorite, and someone else
Exactly.
might hear it, and that might be their favorite.
Yeah.
Right.
But I'm always like, when you give criticism, I'm always like, well, could you express like why it's not your favorite? Like, is
Exactly.
there something that could be better? Like, do
Yeah.
you not like the lyrics, or like,
yeah.
is the melody boring to you,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
like? And sometimes people are like, I don't know, I just don't like it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're like,
And
okay,
you're like,
that's
okay.
cool. But like, I'm like, it'd be helpful if you could like express literally anything.
Yeah,
Anything.
exactly.
Yeah.
No, I feel that.
Yeah.
You know, so obviously I'm not like a songwriter, but I do feel a lot of songwriters, we kind of talked about this earlier, they write songs just based off an idea or concept, but I feel like with yours, you definitely write songs that are based off of real world experiences. How much of the songs that you write are based off of ideas and concepts versus like real life?
I would say that like a good 90% are real life. For myself, I would say 100% is real life. But I also write for other artists
yeah.
as well. And sometimes in those cases, a lot of the times they are still real life, because like I feel like people don't really. I feel like people come to me because they feel comfortable telling me their story,
Yeah.
and then we kind of try to excavate a song from that. And
Okay.
so I think that's kind of part of my thing. So I think that's why a lot of it is real life. But every so often there is a song that's like written more from a prompt, or like, especially for like film and TV, like if it's like, hey, we're looking for a song for this show that is about this,
Right.
and it's for this character, or it's for this commercial or this company that's like, then in that case I would write something that's not about my real life.
Yeah,
okay.
But like it's usually more for like another artist or for like a TV project. Like a couple of my friends, Teddy Gold and Jack Ventimiglia, and we wrote a song for a like blood donation.
Okay.
And in that case, there were some like really specific
Right,
things
right.
that
Of
like
course,
needed
yeah.
to be said about like how to
Concept,
donate
yeah.
blood
Yeah.
and where to go, and like
Exactly.
like, you know what I mean. And so
Yeah.
in that case, obviously, that's more of like
Yeah.
I kind of know what I'm
Of
writing
course, yeah.
about, or
Exactly.
like or like, hey, can you incorporate this one word or whatever?
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, like where do we put that like makes it sound cool?
Exactly.
But yeah, for myself, especially as like my artist project, I would say that like I try really hard to stay true to what I'm actually feeling, because I think people can like hear the authenticity of
Yeah,
something
yeah,
and like
for sure.
feel like, oh yeah, I think that really is what that person is going
Yeah.
through, versus like when something's put on or whatever, where like sometimes it can work, but every so often it feels like somebody's striving for like a hit song, or
Especially
like,
when you perform too. Yeah, you can tell.
yeah, like it just, you know. But then again, I don't know, that's just me. Like some people, you know, can really sell a song that maybe wasn't about their life,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And maybe I could at some point, but like I just tend to want to put out stuff that is about
It's
my
real
life.
life,
Like
yeah.
it just would feel hard for me to like really dive in and promote something that like I don't experience it.
Right.
Even if I think
Makes
it's a
it-
good song, but like that's what's fun for me about being a songwriter and a singer-songwriter
Yeah,
is like
yeah.
because like I can write a song that's maybe not about my
Yeah,
life,
your life, yeah.
but I can still like put myself into it to be like, what would it be like if I
Yeah.
was like
yeah.
You're a storyteller.
here,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
And maybe that's part of like the acting side of me
Yeah.
or whatever,
Yeah.
but like I can, or the like just having empathy, but
Yeah.
like I'm like, listen, like I can understand what that would feel like, and like
Right.
let's write that song.
Exactly.
But I'm happy that I don't have to be the one singing that song.
Exactly.
Because I don't, you know, it would be weird to me to put out
Exactly.
this thing because my fans and people are gonna think that this is my
About
life.
you.
you
Yeah,
know?
yeah, exactly.
And so I'm like, I'm happy, like I can write this and be like, let's go there and talk about this
Yeah.
like really interesting thing that like I get really excited about it because I'm like, that's way more interesting than my life right now.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
A
And
little
like we
juicy.
can, yeah, like
Yeah.
let's go there. Like let's
Yeah.
write it. And like I would love to be a part of that, but like I'm so glad that you're taking this like home and singing
Exactly.
it.
Yeah. So like as a songwriter who writes about, you know, real situations that you've been through, you know, your goal as a songwriter is to capture an emotion and really express it so other people can relate relate to it,
Yeah.
which can be like a very like vulnerable place. Has there ever been a time where you felt like you've been like too exposed to where like you had to pull back, whether it came to like
that's a
songwriting
good
or
question.
performing?
To be honest, I've kind of learned my lesson with that because by the time I've put something out, I'm usually to the other side of it.
Oh, okay.
Because I'm like, I've usually worked through it and I'm like, I was in that place and I can easily get back there and I know what that felt like, but like now I'm here.
It's old news.
It's old news, yeah.
Okay.
Whereas in the past, I used to be more inclined to like put something public, like even if it was just on social media or like even if I was just releasing the lyrics. For something that I like just went through that week, like I'd be like, I just wrote the song like yesterday. And not that there's something exciting about that because it's like very raw and like you're just like there.
Yeah.
But there's also the other part where I started to realize that I was like vulnerable to get really hurt because I was like, I'm still like in this. Like, and now I'm having people like message me and comment to me about this thing that I'm still like very much dealing
the after
with.
Effect. Yeah.
And that was kind of hard for me because I'm like, I can't hear some of this right now because I'm just like so in it. And it's like painful for me to even have these conversations, right? So I think for me, I kind of was like, if I put it out by the time that I've kind of like am on to the next song that I'm writing or like the thing that like next thing I'm dealing with, like I'm usually good because I like know what that feels like and I like can talk about it. But if somebody says something that like maybe I don't totally resonate with, it's not gonna like knock me off my, you know what I mean? Like, especially because I'm like, well, I'm actually now writing my next EP that's not even out yet. But like, I'm talking about this one. You know?
So do you like purposely like leave it on the side if it's too sensitive?
It's not even like so. Luckily for me, it doesn't really even feel so intentional anymore. It's mostly just that like I take a long time to finish it because I'm like being a total perfectionist. So I'm being like, I'm getting the mix right, I'm getting the master right, like, and I want people to hear it for the first time, like how it's recorded, and then I'll perform it and I'll play the acoustic guitar and it might be imperfect or whatever. But at least the first one, I want like people to like. It's so funny because like now TikTok's here and everything, and it's like people almost want to see the process before the final.
They do,
and it's like a totally different way. But to me, I still sort of like the mystery where you're just like, oh, like you listen to this finished thing and you're like, oh my God, this is amazing. And I kind of still like that, and I have to like almost sometimes retrain myself to be like, no, people want to hear about it while it's while you're creating it. But like I often want to just like go in my hole, create it, like spend all the time being a psychopath and like getting it right. Then I can always go and like show the raw version. But I want like if I'm only gonna get your attention like one time, I want you to hear the one that like I intended you to hear. Right. So to me, it's honestly been more of an accident that I'm just like, it took me a while to get the song ready for release. So by the time it's released, I'm like, oh, like, and now people are messaging me about it. I'm good.
You're
and
good,
it's funny because like I wrote this song called Nice Guy on my last record, and it's basically saying like, I want a nice guy. and it's funny because by the time I put it out, like I was already in a relationship and like I actually wrote it while I was in a relationship with Jack, who's over here. Thank you for being here, Jack.
Jack is here.
But it was more inspired.
Is Jack a nice guy?
He's a very nice guy.
He looks like an amazing guy.
He's really nice. I can vouch for him. But but like, you know, I think I kind of wrote it like it was inspired by different things. But regardless, I put it out when I was already in a relationship. But it was so funny because people would message me like, someday you're gonna find that nice guy, like you know, and I'd be like, I already found one.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Like,
you manifested it before it even came, and then you got Jack.
But it's just funny because when you put out a song, people kind of assume like you're in that.
At that time.
So there have been some things that I've put out like that I've written about an ex-boyfriend or something. And then people I remember, this was so annoying to me, but I had a show at the Peppermint Club. I don't know if you've ever been to the Peppermint Club. But I had my album release, and I was like singing certain songs that I had written about my ex-boyfriend, like that I had written many years earlier. But I had a friend from high school come to the Peppermint Club show.
Oh, shit.
And she made like a comment to me after. If you're listening, I'm not mad at you. By the way, I'm not mad at you, but I'm just saying like this is what people think. She made a comment to me afterwards that was like, I can't, like, why are you still like hung up about this guy? Like, oh my God, like, can you just get over it? Like, I can't believe you're still writing songs about this person.
Mean Girls.
And I was like, I wrote these, first of all, I'm putting myself in that place when I'm performing it on stage because like I'm an entertainer.
Yeah, right.
I'm
Exactly.
like, I have to put myself back to be able to like portray this song. And so like I would often do intros and talk about the song. Like I wrote this about this when I was feeling like this. And so maybe that's what led her to feel like I was still in it.
Yeah.
But that's what you do to like express so people can feel like what you were feeling and like whatever. And so I was like, I actually wrote a lot of these songs like 5 years ago, right? But the funny thing is that because the album like had just come out, the perception was like she thought like, wow, this girl's like really not over this person. So I was laughing in my head because I'm like, I wonder what like, because I put like a song out on like just like on Instagram that's never gonna come out. I'm not putting it on a record, but it was like a song I wrote several years ago about my ex-boyfriend. And I was like, it's so funny to me because his mom commented on it.
Oh, wow.
Which was fine. It was sweet, but it was like I'm sitting there laughing because I'm like, they probably think I am a total psychopath because like they're hearing this song and like people are probably thinking like this is how I feel at this moment now, like 6 years later. When in reality, I actually wrote the song like 5 years ago, 6 years ago, but like I'm just sharing it because I didn't get around to sharing it and I wanted to share the song. But I was laughing. I'm like, they're probably sending this around. They're all texting like, this girl needs to get a life. Like, you know what I mean?
Exactly.
But either way, like that just shows how good your message was because either way, it did resonate with them, whether it triggered them to think of the past.
That's a good point, right? You're like, wow, they really felt it, I guess.
Right, they felt it.
Or they think I'm really feeling it by the performance.
Exactly. So sometimes the
I did
hate...
something right, I guess.
It's also like, as long as you don't take it, personal, it still resonates.
I still continued to write the songs, but I was just like, it's funny to, like, I keep writing them, and I'm like, hey, if the person's an inspiration, like, keep mining that.
Exactly.
Like, who cares?
Yes.
Exactly.
So I'm like, I'll use whatever I want to use till the end of time.
It's
like,
your stories.
It's my story, and I'm also like, if something like can trigger you in that way, like, I pull past experiences, like even when I'm writing for other artists, like if they'll tell me a story, like even if I'm not in that place right now, I'm like, sometimes I can be like, oh, like I remember what that felt like. I would never start that song right now if I wasn't like with somebody. But like I can put myself back there. Like I'm like, I remember what it was like to like be in high school and like have this feeling, and like I can totally go back there and like I'll pull from my life for some of the like lines, you know,
which I think is important for songwriting for sure.
But it doesn't mean I'm like sitting there like every day distressed. Like,
Exactly.
But it's funny that like I don't know.
A lot
I think
of people
some people
think that.
Yeah.
No, I can see that. So going into your music, when I listen to your music, I hear like alternative pop, a little hint of country, but either way, the message behind your songwriting is amazing.
Wow, thank you. That's so sweet.
Yeah, of course, yeah. And but I kind of wanted to know, like, have you experimented with any other genres, or have you kind of like honed into the sound that you have now?
It's been a process to find the sound, because I do kind of write different genres, especially when I write for other artists. Like I've been writing like hyper pop, like kind of like grunge pop punk sort of vibes, like some like alt folk, like super kind of stripped, super like non-traditional structure songs.
Even like the music you grew up on is different as well.
Yeah, and then I think for myself, I think you're right to say it's a lot of like alt pop mixed with like a little hint of maybe country Americana something. That's what I would call it. But like, again, it kind of changes depending on the song, because I write a lot of different songs. And like to me, I want to do the song justice. So I always feel like I don't want to put like the song in a box. So I'm like, if this sounds like it should be like this type of song, I'm not gonna make it a country song because it needs to sound like these other songs. Like I think I'm not doing the song a service. I'm doing it a disservice. So to me, I always hope that the through line is like my voice, my writing, my storytelling, the way that I go about like explaining something. Like, and I think that there's a little range for like different sounds within that. Although I have been trying to hone that in more because I felt like my first record was like a little all over the place sonically. Although. And I never really felt like I honed in on a certain sound. Like it was kind of like, well, is it this? Is it this? Is this it? And I was like, I don't even think that any of this is exactly it. I was more thinking about like the songwriting and the storytelling. I was thinking less about like the production sound, which makes such a difference genre wise.
Yeah.
So when I went
sense.
about, like I put out 2 singles, so, Something More and Roses.
Right.
And for those, I really started to think about
that's
the
fire.
production.
Yeah, they are fire.
Yeah. And that's where I like something shifted, I would say, for me artistically, where I was like, no, I need to be involved production wise
Right.
and like really be like, and shout out obviously like the people that produced those, Dan Sada and Jack Ventimiglia and Drew Alexander, super talented
Big
producers.
shout out.
Yeah,
Yes.
they're freaking amazing. But I definitely wanted to be like involved. So
Yeah.
it was kind of like with the music video where I realized
good,
like
yeah.
I need to be involved with this.
That's a true artist. Yeah.
And it paid off,
So
too.
I was like, so I think for me there, I was like, well, what do I like? I was like, well, I like pop melodies that are like hooky and fun.
Right.
I like a lot of dreamy guitars, but I also like punchy beats that feel kind of like alternative pop. Like I
Right.
don't. So I tried to find a way with those 2 songs to kind of like marry all those
Mesh it
things
together,
and
yeah.
find like a sound that I felt like was really true to what I like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is kind of all those things of like, and I threw in some country elements to those, even though I think at first listen you would initially say they're alt pop songs,
Right.
because they're more alt pop than they are country. But like,
Right, they are,
you could
yeah.
still hear some like slide guitars
Right.
and like
Yeah.
some banjo and
That's why there's a
Especially in Something
Yeah.
More.
Yeah,
It's
there's
in
a
Something
hint.
More, I definitely
Yeah.
noticed that a lot.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, there's a
Yeah.
banjo in the bridge, and I remember
Yeah.
telling my producer like, okay, and then the bridge, there's like a clearing that happens, and like a banjo comes in, and I think at
Yeah.
first we were both sort of like what? Like a banjo comes in?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's such a pop,
Yeah.
it's an alt pop song.
Yeah.
But I was like, you know what? Yeah, like a banjo sound comes in because
Yeah.
it's kind of cool that
Yeah.
like all
It
of a
is,
sudden
yeah.
it shifts a
Yeah.
little bit, and like
Yeah.
it fits the vibe. I think enough.
Yeah.
So for me, I was like, I don't need to make a decision. I just kind of want them in terms of genre, but I
Right.
just want them to be like cohesive when you put
Right,
them
right.
together.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
So you're like, well, this is Kara.
Yeah.
Right, right.
Even if we can't quite say like what this is, I think it would be hard for me to be put into a box.
Yeah.
Like, and
Make your own genre.
yeah,
you know?
like my
Yeah.
favorite artists kind of always made their own genres, even though it's funny because like over the years, people have tried to kind of get me to pick a lane.
Right,
Like
of
they've
course.
been like, well, just make a country record, or
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
make a super commercial.
The same
pop.
people who say you need to release music every
Yeah.
week. Yeah.
Yeah.
But to me, I was like, I think if I made like, and don't quote me on this, like maybe next year I'll make a straight country record. Like I don't know if I'm inspired to.
Exactly.
But I don't want to be like making it just because I'm trying to make this thing that's
Right.
like, oh, this is a commercial
Right.
package.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I can always kind of hear when someone did that. Like, I don't know, you
Exactly.
can just hear it. Like, you're like,
Right.
okay, yeah, this sounds like everything else that's on this country
Yeah.
radio or
You're
on
not
this
trying to
pop
be
radio.
as mainstream.
Yeah.
You're trying to create your own sound.
Yeah,
Right.
and
Yeah.
it's funny. I guess that is what it is.
Yeah.
I'm not. I guess I'm not super mainstream, which is funny because my friend.
I think it's better that way, though. You know.
No, my friend told me that today. I was
Yeah.
I was hanging with my friend in the car, and he's like, yeah, like you're not trying to make a mainstream
Yeah,
thing. Like he's like,
exactly.
you're none of your songs. Like he's like, they're all catchy and like poppy, but he was like, I wouldn't say that they're like mainstream.
Yeah.
Right, right.
And I was like, all right, I'll take that.
Yeah,
Right, right.
but that's good though. Honestly, like I would say that's not a bad thing because
Yeah.
it's good being different. That's
Right,
what's
right.
gonna
It
catch
is.
a lot more people's attention. Like I
Yeah.
feel like being different, people are gonna be like, oh, like this actually sounds really cool and stuff
Well,
like
that's
that.
my
You know,
hope. Like, I feel like I've always loved artists that kind of do that. Like, even Taylor Swift. I know she was country to begin with, but
Right.
was
she's
she?
changed a lot.
Yeah, she's
Honestly,
changed a
she
lot.
even
For sure.
I listened to that new album with my girlfriend, and I was like,
Evermore.
yeah,
Folklore.
Evermore, and I was
Yeah.
like, this is way different. I don't
Yeah,
know if
yeah.
it definitely wasn't my thing.
Yeah,
but you
sure.
know, listening to her previous ones, I was like, those
Yeah.
albums are fire. This one was just way different.
Way different, yeah.
Way different.
And some people are really like love this one and don't
Yeah.
love the other ones,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
So like to me, there's something out there for everybody.
Exactly.
But like that, like
I think
Taylor-
you're on the right path, though.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yes,
I just
sure.
think at least. I guess I always would rather have someone trying to mimic your like the sound you've made as
Right.
opposed to like trying to chase the sound that's in.
Right, right.
Because my thought has always just been that like by the time something's in, by the time you can write a great song in that style and
Right.
produce it out and put it out, it's
Yeah.
probably gonna be out.
Right, right.
Right.
Exactly.
No,
So
it
it's
is.
like you kind of just I kind of just have always been like whether I'm in the flow of the mainstream or whether I'm out of the flow of the mainstream, like
Right.
at least I'm being true to myself.
Yeah.
right?
Exactly. Yeah.
And like you can't compare it to like whatever's
Exactly.
in because it's not even trying to be that.
Exactly.
Does that
and,
make sense?
and I think eventually people gravitate towards authenticity, you know.
Sure.
And like just like Taylor Swift as well, like she was in her own lane for a while, and then she obviously like became popular, and people were following her trend.
Yeah,
you
well,
know?
even when
So-
she was like a country artist,
Right,
it's
right.
so funny because she never really sounded like exactly what the other country artists
true.
sounded
Yeah.
like to
Yeah,
me. She
sure.
was always kind of a pop
Yeah.
Very
pop
I agree.
country.
Yeah, I agree.
She
Yeah.
never really sounded even exactly like any of the ones that were like immediately. And obviously she
Right.
created like a whole thing where then people chased her sound, like we said.
Exactly.
But
Exactly.
like she wasn't really trying to be like a certain sound.
Exactly. Yeah, she
Agreed.
created her own genre, and eventually, as she grew and gained a fan base, like people followed her. And,
Yeah, totally. I
yeah.
just think there's something to be said for that, you know?
Yeah, no, I could definitely see that. So, going back to you, you know, I noticed you're wholly independent and, you know,
Yeah.
a self-supported artist. What's your view on like record labels? Do you plan on signing with one in the future, or?
Listen, I think record labels can be so helpful. Like, I definitely see the value in them. It's like if you have a team behind you that really believes in what you're doing and is
Yeah.
willing to put some like financial backing
Right.
behind you, like amazing, right?
Right.
But the question for me is like, are you giving me final say, right? Like,
right,
can
right.
I say what songs come out and what don't? Like, can I say what my album cover looks like? Can I say what the video looks like?
Yeah,
and
right.
and if not, I get a little more like,
right.
like I don't want to be the artist that signs their soul away and then is just
Right,
ends
right.
up sitting on a shelf, because that happens all the time where they're like, yes,
Right,
I'll
right.
do whatever
No
you
creative
want.
control
No
whatsoever,
creative
yeah.
control.
Yeah.
And then people are like, wait a sec, this sounds nothing like their indie records. It's like, well, yeah, because they tell them what to sound like.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I think for me, I'm just like, I would be totally down to like partner with the right company. Like
Yeah.
if it's like somebody that like sees what I'm doing and is like, yeah, I get what you're trying to do, and
Yeah.
like I can help you further that, then like I'm down for a conversation,
Yeah.
right? And I definitely
Right.
have been down for those conversations. But the second that it's like, okay, and now you're a punk artist that wears eyeliner
Yeah,
and
right,
you
right.
have it, and it's like, that's where I start to get like, because I have had those conversations
Oh,
too,
really?
where
Okay,
it's
yeah.
like, hey, like this is awesome, but like look at this artist who has like a cigarette crown on their head. That's really trendy right now. Like maybe you're crying on your cover and like whatever. And I'm like,
Because
this
that's
is-
what sells.
Right,
you know?
and I'm like, this is
Yeah.
a song about roses. you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I'm like, okay.
It just doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense,
They
but then-
have these ideas in their head that things would sell.
Yeah.
But in your mind, and I think in a lot of people's mind, it's like, it just doesn't make sense.
It doesn't add up.
Yeah,
Like,
it doesn't
I'm
add up.
literally singing "There
Right.
Are Roses
Yeah.
Everywhere."
So what's the whole crying?
Why am I
and-
crying
yeah.
with cigarettes?
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
It
So-
just doesn't. And if it made sense, yeah, I'm
Yes,
down. Like I'm not
exactly.
saying I wouldn't be down, but it's
Right.
like it has to make sense. Otherwise, I just feel
100%.
like I'm not being true
Oh,
to
yeah.
myself. Like I
Sure.
don't think it would ever make sense for me to like, at least at this point in my life, like if I had an album cover, like if I did some of the stuff people told me to do, I would feel like such a joke, because like
right.
no one is believing that I have a cigarette crown on my head or whatever. Like I am not that girl. You know what I
Right,
mean?
right.
Like it's so obvious
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
it's like if I was doing that, I think people would like kind of be laughing.
Yeah.
But for some reason, people like certain people have told me things over the years where they're like, okay, like if we just like if you do this, and I was like, yeah, but then I would be like a totally different artist, right?
Yeah, you
And
were.
like, yeah, Billie Eilish is super in right now, but her music makes sense with that vibe of
Yeah,
like the
right.
dark kind of thing. And like,
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
that's really trendy, but like take a listen to the music. She's talking about these really heavy topics
Yeah, she
like
is, yeah.
suicide and
Yeah,
like
right.
whatever, and I'm like, this is a song about roses. I'm sorry, what? Like,
Exactly.
I mean, I'm not
Yeah.
trying to be like, every
Yeah.
idea is welcome.
Yeah.
Give me your ideas,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
like
yeah.
it's like, let's be real
Yeah.
about right. So
Right.
like I think for me, like if it was the right team that was like, yeah, I totally get this, or like even if it was like, let's talk about like what is the creative idea, I'm
Right.
open for compromises.
Yeah.
But I don't like being told what to do.
Exactly.
I think
I
think
see that.
having you're right, having the right team that understands what you are trying to go with as far as your creativity, that's what you need. Because there are people like, let's say you get you do sign a record label, they assign you a team, and this team just is like thinking about random shit and stuff
Yeah.
like that. And yeah, I that's why I fully understand what you're saying. Like I feel like
Yeah.
a lot of the people though that would need to be on your team are people that have been riding with you for a long
Yeah,
time. They
yeah, they
fully
get
know
what you're trying to
they
do.
know exactly what you're trying to do. But yet again, record labels may not let you do that. They want to bring in their own people and be like, no, these people are going to take over. And you know,
I would rather fail at what is true to me than fail at something I didn't want to be, which happens all the time. People sign a label thing and they like try to do they change their thing completely, and that it's so hard to succeed
100%.
regardless. So and then they don't succeed, and it's like, this is not even you at all. What it is he making?
Oh, he's going for he's rooting for you.
No, I mean, I'm just saying, like, I think that when I really have to sit with myself, I have to be honest with that, because I'm like,
100%.
listen, like, you can do what everyone wants you to do, and you can still fail. It's that hard. So it's like, at least fail for being honest to yourself. Don't fail for doing something that you thought was a joke to begin with, right? But like, it's hard because you get pulled in a lot of places. Even as like an actor, people want you to be something that maybe you're not, or they're like, maybe you're this type, maybe you're that type, and like, it's really easy to get caught up in it. I'm not even like saying, you know, I get how it happens, and I'm not immune to that. But it's just, I don't know, trying to really sit with yourself and be like, is this the right call? Because sometimes too, you sign to a team and then your point person leaves the label. And then you're stuck when no one else cares about your music. And that's when you get, and you're like, wait, I just signed 2 weeks ago and now Billy's gone. And like, that was the person that believed in you, right? And like, that's happened to so many of my friends where they then are shelved and they're in this contract where they're not even letting them put out stuff. Which that's like really hard to hear when I'm like, or they'll make a record that they really believe in, give it to the label, and they're like, this isn't what we thought, and they don't let them put it out. When as an independent artist, you would be allowed to, because you're in control. But like once you're under contract, it's like they're like, we have you in a contract and we don't like this look for you. So no, the record you just spent 3 months on is not coming out. Or if a year on, or 2 years on, or 3 years on, like, no, it's not coming out, and then it just gets shelved. And like, I just don't want it to be that. So I would definitely want to put like some things in there that are like, hey, I have creative control. If you're down to just like be along for the ride and like support, cool. Like, let's do this.
Which is smart.
It's smart. And I feel like there's nothing wrong with being an independent artist. You know why? If you know Chance the Rapper, he's fully independent and he's successful.
He's a badass,
he's successful, and that just proves to you don't need a record label to, you know, be successful at all. You can do it all on your own. And I feel like, you know, I think there's a lot of people out there that are trying to chase record labels and trying to get signed. But guess what? You got to think about what's happening in the back. Like, you know, there's a lot of fishy stuff. Like, especially, you know, I mean, there's a lot of...
They take a lot of percentage.
They do take a lot of percentage.
And part of you, and some of it, they take it from in perpetuity, or for like, if you sign a, you know, not the right deal, you don't get your masters back for a very, very, very long time.
It's all hype.
A lot of people messed up on that years ago about not having their masters and all that, you know.
And then even if they didn't, like, say this is the issue I have with that, is like, so say they have your master, right? They own it. And you signed like you're with them for 2 years, 3 years, and they're like, but we're gonna work for you for 2 years, but we're gonna keep your master ownership for
music.
30 years. So say I do something in 5 years that blows up that master, they're still getting 70%.
There goes your music.
Right, even though they haven't actually been involved for 3 years. They literally stopped working on it after 2 years. Nothing they did actually led to it. Granted, if they do something that does lead to it, I'm not saying it's not. They should. Of course they should. Like they should get they should get some percentage of I don't know if I'd say ownership, but they should definitely get a good chunk of the you know, royalties.
Exactly. You know, going back into your music, I noticed one thing you really love doing is including guitar melodies as a part of your songs. How big of a role has like the guitar played in your life?
Oh, you know, it's funny. Like, on one hand, it's played a huge role, and on another hand, it's like I feel like I could not play the guitar, and I could be in the same place, which is funny. And the reason I say that is because my whole first record, I wrote it by myself, pretty much on the guitar in my bedroom, and I could really only play like very minimal chords. But you know, the truth is, like, I think many people have said this, but like, really, if you have like 3 chords in the truth, you can write a good song. You don't need to have like a billion difficult, challenging. Sometimes it honestly is a detriment, because you're like, it's so endless. You have so much knowledge of the guitar or the instrument that you're like, I don't even know what I should go to, because I could make it really cool and challenging. But sometimes people actually resonate with like a really simple chords, because it's just so accessible. Like, everybody can sing along to it. It's usually catchier.
It's catchy.
So it's like funny, like, I really am like, it's like great. Like if you're great at an instrument, oh my God, I have so much awe. Like I'm in awe of those people because I'm like, it's so helpful to like be able to do that.
Right.
But like I said, I wrote my whole first record like knowing like 8 chords, you know, and just changed my. I was able to like, you know, I just changed the capo to give it a different key, and I would change the tuning sometimes, and then I'd be like, oh, this is a different vibe.
No,
so in that regard, the guitar kind of made me a songwriter because like
it did play a big role then.
Well, because I like, you know, I was learning how to, I learned how to play the guitar through writing songs. I didn't ever play cover songs. It was always just like, okay, let me play, oh, this sounds like right for this melody. Like I just wanted to have something where I could show my songs. And the guitar allowed me to like make a complete song start to finish, like chords, melody, lyric, like 100% me. So in that regard, I do like owe a lot to it, right? Because it's like, like I was able to do this without having to ask somebody like, hey, can you co-write this with me? Like, well, there's nothing wrong with that, but like I was able to do that. The funny thing is now that I have built a bit of a base with that record, I actually can like get in rooms and work with people that are like really skilled at those instruments. So I actually now have less of a need to do it because I'm in a different place where like I have people that have been playing the guitar since they were a child, whereas I picked it up later in life just so that I could say or could accompany myself to be like, here's my song, like please listen to it. So now I find that it's like I still write on the guitar. I wrote a song on the guitar 2 weeks ago for a friend of for a friend of mine. And we were like, yeah, we're gonna keep those chords, and like that's it. So I still do it, but there are often times, especially as like a pop writer, where there's art, like someone's like, hey, what about this beat? Like, can you come up with something to this? And then I'm like, I'm not even involved with the instrumental. Or I'm with an artist that I write for that they like are obsessed with the guitar and they're like, this is my guitar part. Like, can you help me come up with a song over this?
And I'm helping.
I'm like, okay, cool. Let's keep your guitar part. Cause like, I don't ever want to mess with someone's artistry. Like, I'm like, if this is you, like, let's build from who this is. Like, so it's often a lot of that, especially as a pop writer who's like, you know, really I'm more of a top liner. Like I do a lot of lyric melody. So it's like, I don't know, it's like kind of both now. Like I still care about it, but like now I have some knowledge of the guitar though, so I can tell a producer like, okay, in this part I want like this kind of a hooky guitar part that sounds like really reverbed out and dreamy. So like I still am like really obsessed with the guitar sound because I'm like definitely directing. I'm saying I want guitar in this because I love the way the guitar sounds. Like there's just something to it for me that like does it for me more than like a piano does or like a synth beat or like something. Like I just like the warmth of it like just makes me feel at home. Is there times where you're like you're not even near a guitar or you're just laying in bed and like a melody will come in your head and you're like you're humming and then you think of lyrics that can possibly go with a song? 100% all the time. Yeah, that's often when I think of lyrics and melodies at the most inconvenient moments. Like I'll be like half asleep and I'll be like and then I'll be like, oh, I need to get my phone and now I'm up and like.
Do you ever pull out the guitar like when you think of a melody?
Sometimes I do. Less so nowadays, like I said, because I'm like, oh, so and so's gonna write a way better part than I am, and like, and not that I couldn't, like I said, I could do it. I did it 2 weeks ago, but like I just know that I'm like sometimes I want something beyond what I can play. Like I'm like, oh no, this is gonna be like a rock and guitar solo here, and I'm like, I'm not that kind of player, but I can play like on stage and play my song.
Of course.
So yeah, I mean, I definitely like once I was sleeping and I had like a lucid dream where this doesn't happen to me all the time, but I could tell I knew I was sleeping. Like I was like kind of looking at myself sleeping in bed.
Oh, that's crazy.
Like it was super weird. And this woman came to me in the dream and like sang me this melody.
Oh shit.
And these lyrics. And I was like, what the heck's this? And it was like singing me this thing.
That's crazy.
And in the morning I had just like the day before been struggling with like to figure out the bridge to one of my songs, Other People. And I like kind of had an idea, but I was like, it's not working and whatever, I'm gonna go to bed. And
you thought about that lady.
Well, and then that night I'm like hearing this melody and I woke up in the morning and I remembered the lyric and the melody and I was like, I wonder if this works like over that guitar part, like for the bridge. So I got out the guitar and it was like perfect. It worked
That's
perfectly.
crazy. Yeah.
So that's like sometimes it does come in like really weird moments.
That is crazy.
And so like half of that Other People bridge was written in my sleep.
Yeah, that's the definition of working in your sleep.
Yeah. And then the other half, I just kind of like I already had the melody, so I just kind of filled in the lyrics.
Piece
throughout
it together.
The second half.
Awesome.
Yeah, but
Nice.
like half of that was definitely written while asleep. Like I don't know, it's so weird. That doesn't happen to me usually.
Yeah.
Though.
That's still cool though.
Yeah, usually it's just like I'm laying in bed about to sleep, and then I'm like, oh, damn it. Because I'm like, you lose it if you don't you don't put it down. Like I'm like, okay, like let me like get my voice notes out.
Yeah.
But I do sometimes go through those, like when I have sessions. Like I was working with my friend Forrest out in Nashville. We were doing like a Zoom session.
Yeah.
And I needed a melody, so I like went through some of my like nighttime sleep, like half awake melodies, and I was like, oh, this is kind of cool. So I got out my guitar and I was like, okay, like. So that's an example where I did actually with his name's Forrest Glenn Whitehead. He does a lot of awesome country work, like really great country producer, country pop. And so I did come up with like the chords and I sang him the melody, and then he improved the guitar part because he was like, oh yeah, that's cool. And then he added like, but it was the same chords, the same. So I guess in that regard, like that song on my next project was started by like me on the guitar, but I almost don't think of it like that because it ended up being played by Forrest and it sounds like way better.
Yeah, that's awesome. I can see that.
Yeah.
But that's dope either way. You know, more on a more serious note, I heard a few years back before you released your first album, Life in a Rear View, you actually had surgery on your vocal cords, which sounds
you went deep.
Really painful. Yes.
Oh my God. Yeah, it was.
Yeah, like how was that experience like, and how did you overcome that in order to pursue music till this day?
I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. It was awful. It was like one of the hardest periods of my life. Like it was so hard because I had the surgery because I have an autoimmune disease and there was like a lot going on, and my autoimmune disease is connected to my thyroid, which is also connected to being like the throat and being able to use your muscles. And I ended up getting nodules that like wouldn't really go away after lots of like rehab therapy. So I was like, okay, I'm just gonna do the surgery. But I ended up getting worse after the surgery for a 2-year period. Where then like it's so hard to explain unless you're in it, but when you're so used to singing around nodules, like your vocal cords are like a muscle.
Right.
So like now you're using different parts of your cords to speak and to sing because you're used to, for like however long you've had that in there, which for me, I didn't know how long. It could have been many years where I was singing with it, and that was just like my vocal tone. Yeah, I don't know. Or it could have been 2 months. I don't know.
Right, that's true.
By the time I went, I couldn't tell you how long it had been in there because no one had ever looked in my vocal cords.
Right.
But you're so used to talking a certain way that when all of a sudden within an hour that's removed, and then you have to go on like a 3-week, 4-week vocal rest, your muscles start to like atrophy in a way because you're not using them for several weeks. So by the time I started speaking again, now all of a sudden I haven't spoken. Not only have I not spoken for like 3-4 weeks, but then on top of that, now I have to completely learn how to speak again because the way that like I was speaking was like really compensating for what that was. So now my structure is like totally different.
Starting from zero.
Like starting from zero. And so it was like I kind of like got this like really bad muscular tension in my on my neck. Like I was engaging like the muscles around my neck in a really weird way to be able to speak because I hadn't like spoken like that. So I ended up getting this like really bad muscular tension that was honestly way worse than the nodules. Like I thought I was fixing, like I'm fixing the nodules, whatever. But then the muscular tension was like so much harder to speak around because like the muscles got so tense and tight over that period. So I really had to like fight through that. There was a long time where I was like, I'm not gonna act or sing anymore. Like I just can't sing and my voice is gone. I can't do it. Like it really hurts. I had to take so many more breaks than everybody else where I would be like, I'm taking like 2 months off, which is like really hard to sustain a career if you have to take 2 months off.
Right, for sure.
So I was like, man, I just think I like don't have the same setup or like system. Like I'm a lot more sensitive than other people, like personally or like physically.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'm not gonna be able to do this, but I just kind of pushed through it. Like, I was like, I'm just going to keep pushing through it. And even if that means I'm only singing for 1 day a week, then that's what I'm doing. But I'm not going to give up.
Yeah.
So I kept doing it, and I kept pushing through it, and I found exercises around it. Like, there's certain things you can do to relieve tension, like straw exercises and cup exercises. Like, too much to go into right now, but there's a lot you can do.
Yeah.
So I started to do that, and I just kind of tried to keep singing, because at first I would sing and I would get really like I'd feel like, and I almost had some PTSD, I would say, like, trying not to use that word lightly, but like, I kind of, whenever my throat was starting to hurt, I would assume I was getting my nodules back.
Oh, wow.
And like, because I'd be like, shit, like, it's so painful. Like, I sang for an hour at this venue. Now for 3 days, I'm like in so much pain. Like, I bet my nodules are coming back.
Yeah.
So I would have this like paranoia that they were coming back, and then I would like go get them checked out. They weren't really coming back, but like, I just felt like they were, but it was actually like I had so much muscular tension that I was having to like fight through.
Yeah.
And part of it is that I do have really sensitive vocal cords. So like, I have a lot of like redness, rawness. Like, every time they go look at my vocal cords, they're like, oh, they look horrible, you know?
Yeah.
But not even just the cords, like my whole like larynx, nose, throat. Like, I think I just have like partly the autoimmune disease, partly some like allergies, stuff like that. But it's like the perfect storm to get nodules, because they're like, if you constantly have like an irritated, inflamed red throat, you're basically like sandpaper. Like, you're gonna get like, even if you're singing like so well with the right technique, because you have this like perfect storm environment, you're gonna keep getting them. Yeah. So after I heard that, I was just like, oh my God, this is like hopeless, you know, because even if I do all these like techniques and these whatever, I have this like, my body has like a bad setup in there, and I tried everything. It didn't work. Like, I'd always go in, I would took like reflux meds, I took allergy stuff. Like, I can't even describe how many things I did. Changed my diet, like all this stuff. And every time I would go and they would scope me, they'd be like, it looks terrible. Like, and I'm like, I did everything you said, like, perfectly. So over time, I just accepted, like, that's my mechanism, and I have to work through it. And like, I'm always going to have more struggles than like everybody else on that regard, because I have some like a bad situation in there that's like beyond what I even know how to control. So I just kind of started singing through it, and I learned that like the more that I sang through, I wouldn't even call it pain, but it was just like, instead of like the alarm going off like, oh my God, it's nodules are coming back, I'm gonna have to get surgery again, I'm gonna be out for 2 years, like that was where my head was going. I had to be like, no, every time you've thought that, you've gone back in, they haven't been like rip roaring terrible, like it maybe is not good, like my doesn't look good, but it's not like back where it was, you know? And so I kind of had to just be like, you know what? I just need to like sing and through this kind of, and like eventually I learned that like the singing actually can help me kind of move to the other side of it.
So how is it now? Like, do you still feel a lot of pain? Or
I do feel pain frequently. I just think I try not to focus on it anymore. I know that's like so dark, but like I just try. I think the focusing on it was making it a lot worse for me, because did
it give you some like anxiety?
It did, because anytime I was focusing on it and being so careful, and anytime I would go to focus on it, it was like, it would make it worse, because now you're all of a sudden like you're trying to be so careful around it, and like now you can't do recording sessions, and now I'm like, I have to cancel 2 weeks of shows, and like now I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna live my life, I'm gonna do my shows, I'm gonna do my recording sessions. If something happens, I'll deal with it, but I can't like live my life thinking like I'm being so careful, walking on eggshells. And I think a lot of people maybe would have been like, I'm not doing this career, I'm gonna pick a different career, but for me, I was like, no, I think I just have to like really kind of work through it and be like honest with myself.
It sounds like it also made you stronger throughout the years, like going through something that other people don't really go through. And it took me like techniques. It taught me techniques that other people, I think like I have some better vocal health techniques because I had to go through that. That some people don't learn until they're like on a tour where they completely lose their voice and they're like, they have to cancel it. Totally
because
strained.
they didn't know like, oh my God, wait, I should have been doing XYZ before I sang. I should have warmed up. I should have done all this. And now they're like completely out. I'm kind of grateful it happened at a time when I wasn't like at the peak. When it was like just starting. Because I had to learn so much that I could like teach others about it, you know? And I think like for me, something my doctor said to me recently, because like I went back in after doing a bunch of stuff, and he was like, yeah, like I don't know, it looks the same, like really red, really inflamed. And like I said, not just the chords, which would be more of like oh, maybe you're singing weird, like my whole larynx, my whole nasal passages, like everything.
Dang.
Which is always what it is. So he was like, listen, he's like, the fact that you have like these conditions in your throat, and every time you come back in, you don't have like full-blown rip roaring nodules. He's like, you're obviously doing something right.
It hasn't increased. It just stayed
like
the
he's
same.
like, you haven't like, obviously the techniques you learned from the first time you got the surgery obviously are helping, because you're not back at that place, even though the conditions look the same.
Right, exactly.
So I'm like, okay, like that's my, like, I try to just remember that of like, okay, just because like it's not an ideal condition, I'm still, I worked around it enough where I'm not like debilitated, you know?
That's dope, you know, and I appreciate you sharing that story with us. Because, you know, Artistry Job is all about, you know, inspiring the next generation. Who knows what other people who are struggling with the same type of issue or have some type of health concern that they feel like they can't make it as well.
No, it was a good
you know?
question. Like, to be honest, I don't usually talk about it because it's like it's hard to explain. It's complex and people don't always understand what I'm saying. So like, unless I'm like directly asked, I usually don't bring it up anymore, because I'm like, no, it's hard to like get. It's hard to explain.
Sensitive.
It's sensitive.
Thank you for telling us.
No, I mean, I'm happy
that.
to. Like, if I could have heard that when I was going through it, I mean, like, I felt like everybody could just do these things, and I was like deeply struggling, and it was such a like dark time. But I'm like, if somebody listens and is like in that place of like you can make it through it, you know, and there are ways around it, and it's not like the end of your career. You just have to be like persistent and kind to yourself and be like, this is where I'm at, and just realize like I've had to accept that like things might take me a little bit longer, but that doesn't, in terms of just my scheduling of abilities to be able to do certain things, because I'll need a break or whatever, but I'm like, that's okay as long as like you keep going and you don't let something like that stop you. You know?
That's dope. That's important. You know, anybody out there listening, you know, you heard it here first. Yeah, for sure. But like, going on a more positive note, I saw that you've went to the Grammys back in 2020. How was that experience, and did you feel inspired by being in a room of like all those talented artists?
Oh yeah, it's hard not to be, right? Like you're like, whoa, like this is possible, right? It was really fun for me because I think back to like just really enjoying visuals. I was like, I want to like pick a dress that I like think is cool. I want to do a whole like hair look and makeup look. Like I want it to be like a moment. And to me, that goes down to even like a red carpet appearance. Like I just think that kind of stuff is so fun to be like what is it gonna look like?
Exactly.
Or, like I just love that stuff. I think it's like so exciting. So to me, that was really fun to like get to go and be a part of that and like have like wear something that I wouldn't normally be able to even wear on an everyday basis. So that was super fun. And then like getting to see the artists perform and like getting to meet some artists and like talk, like it was really cool to just be like feel like you're in the mix. Like wow, I'm like here. Something that I like always thought about, right? Like it's just like how cool would it be to go to
every
the
artist
Grammy?
dream.
Exactly.
Yeah, like I'm like, it's so fun. Like I'm like, I can't believe I'm here right now, right? So
you see it at its peak.
It was such an honor. I was like, I can't believe like this is so cool. But in all honesty, it's a really long day.
Oh, I bet.
Because you have to get up like really early, and then there's two events. There's like the pre-televised and then the televised.
Oh, really?
So like, I pretty much got up at like 5 a.m.
Really?
Yeah.
Damn.
And then I got home at like 1 a.m.
Oh,
that's
wow.
crazy.
That
That's
is
a long day.
So I was like, like part of me was like, I'm tired, but I'm trying to like live this up.
Right.
Yeah.
Because it's a one in a lifetime.
It's like your wedding day or something. Like a lot of people I talked to were like, I was so tired. Like, you know, because you just like built this, they were up like all day doing like the pictures or whatever, but they're like, it was awesome, but like, I'm going to sleep for like 2 weeks.
No.
Like that's how I feel like when I think about the Grammys, I'm like, it's so epic. And then like, I'm going to crash for a month.
No, exactly. Understandable. We're gonna step out of, you know, the serious stuff, and we're gonna get into a little fun with our new game.
Oh, there's a game?
There's a new game.
So here on the Artistry Job, we want to bring something new
worries.
and excited to the show. So today we're gonna play a game called Artistry Roulette. Here is how the game is gonna go. You're gonna choose a number between 1 and 10. Each number will contain a random question which you only have 15 seconds to answer. So you'll answer all 6 questions And each question that goes over 15 seconds will cost you a sip
Oh no,
of
so
that
I have
drink.
to go really quick.
Yes.
15 seconds.
Kara,
Oh man,
are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. So you gotta choose a number.
Okay, I'm gonna do 8.
We're
Okay.
gonna do 8. All right, are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. Question is, do you believe in ghosts and the paranormal? And
Yes,
if
I
not,
do.
why? Oh, that was
Yeah.
quick. Okay. Why though?
Why? I just feel like I've had too many like weird
Experiences?
experiences. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. That's simple. That's all we needed.
Yeah, I
Because
could-
I believe
that
in it
was
too.
quick.
So,
I mean,
yeah.
dude, I could go on many tangents here,
Yes.
but we don't need that. I'm just gonna tell you.
No, you're
yes,
good. You're
ghosts.
good. You're good. Yes.
Yes, there's
There
real.
we
There's
go.
a ghost cat in my house. Okay.
Oh damn!
There we go. All right, we're gonna have you choose another one, 1 through 10.
Okay,
Aside from
3.
8, 3.
Let's
Okay.
go for number 3. Lucky
3.
number 3.
Explain the most memorable memory when meeting a celebrity for the first time. Timer starts now.
Oh, so I love the All American Rejects, and I met one of them in the bathroom, and it was really weird. So
What
15
happened?
seconds.
Why?
I can't go over 15 seconds. So it was like one of those. So like,
Yeah,
how
you
does-
already went over, but
Yeah.
okay.
So, but I feel like I got that in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the why is like I went to the there was like a multi-sex bathroom, and I opened the door to go to the bathroom, and
Oh.
he hadn't locked the bathroom.
Oh, no.
And so
Oh.
he was in the bathroom. And that was my first encounter with like this dude from the All American Rejects, who I've like loved since
Yeah.
I was a
Oh,
child.
God. That's crazy.
Damn,
But-
that is
That's
crazy.
crazy.
Yeah, but it was like fine. It was
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
oh shoot, sorry, like
No,
okay,
of
like lock the door.
Of course.
That's
Of
it.
course.
And then I think I talked to him later and got a picture, and it was totally
Nice.
fine.
Yeah, that's dope.
That's
That's
But
dope.
I mean, that's pretty strange.
yeah, and that's
Yeah.
memorable for sure.
It's
so
memorable.
Yeah, you
For-
passed.
It's the first thing that came to mind, although there's probably something else weird that I've been through.
That's also a funny story though. Okay, so 1 through 10. You pick.
Oh yeah. Ooh,
You chose 3 and 8.
7.
7.
7. What's your favorite childhood toy that you couldn't live without?
Oh, I
Timer
had this
starts
thing
now.
call Doodle Bear that you could draw on. It was a bear that I like took everywhere.
Oh, really?
And you draw it and wash it, and you could draw on it again, but I never
Oh.
washed it.
Oh, really?
So it just has hella designs on it.
Oh,
then.
yeah, it
10
was just
seconds.
cool.
You're
Yeah,
pretty
that's
good at
awesome.
this game.
Yeah, you
Thanks.
are.
You're
you
pretty
are.
quick.
Yeah, you are.
Doodle
are.
Bear.
Doodle Bear. I know. I'm just like first thought, best thought.
Yeah.
That's what you have to do with this game.
Okay,
All right,
you
1
did
through 10.
Yeah, 1 through
Yeah.
10. Go ahead.
10. Let's do it.
10. Okay. If you could choose if you could change lives with a celebrity, who would it be and why?
Timer
Taylor
starts now.
Swift.
I mean, that
And
was
because
simple.
of all the reasons I told you, because I'm obsessed with her.
That is true. That is true. That was
7
simple.
seconds.
First
That's
thought,
crazy.
best thought.
7
That's
seconds, yeah.
crazy.
First thought, best thought. I'm sure there's others that I could probably come
Yeah.
up with better answers. But
No, that's awesome. No,
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
that makes sense with everything we talked about
yeah,
already.
yeah.
All right, 1 through 10.
All right, you got 2 more.
Yeah.
Let's go with 1.
1. Okay. If you lost your ability to sing, what would you be doing as a career and why? Timer
Oh,
starts
I
now.
think I'd be like a Jane Goodall. Like I would help endangered species or like study
Okay.
animals.
Why?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Because I just love
Like a
animals and
vet?
nature. Not a vet, but like wildlife.
Wildlife, awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. 12 seconds. Ooh, you're
Oh,
good.
yeah,
You're
yeah,
good.
All right,
You're
you got
quick.
1 more. You got 1 more. 1 out of 10.
Oh man. Okay. Let's go with 2.
2. Okay. So us living in LA, we live in a city where we sometimes feel we need to be out and about. So with that being said, would you rather stay in or on a Friday or be out, and why?
I would rather stay in, but on a Friday I'm out with you guys right now.
Yeah, there you go. There
hardest you
We
job.
gotta give you some claps for that.
Yes.
That is true. That is true.
That's 6 seconds. Damn,
that's
you're
6
good at this
Hey.
game.
Bada boom, bada bing.
Hey, thank you again,
But this
Kara.
is the first one, right? So we gotta see if anyone else like beats me.
That is true.
That was
That
the
is-
quickest,
that-
actually.
Oh, that was
you've
the
ever
quickest?
That
had,
was
yeah.
definitely the quickest one. That
Oh,
was
yeah.
definitely. Hey, thank you again, Kara, for playing the artistry roulette. This is still new for a lot of people. This is new for us, but we've been having fun. So thank you for participating.
Yeah. Oh, thank you.
Yes.
This was really fun.
It was fun, and you answered those so quickly. Yeah, that was the first time.
Best
Yeah,
that's what you gotta do. For
exactly.
future guests, it's first.
You're
thought,
number one right now.
Number one. How many competitors do I have?
36.
No, you don't have 36.
No,
you
we started.
you probably have like 7.
Yeah.
Because I was gonna say I've listened to a few episodes and I didn't hear it.
No, you probably have like 6 or 7.
New.
It is still pretty new.
Yeah, it is pretty new.
So you're in the lead
you're
right
up
now.
there.
Leader.
Yes, you're definitely the leader right now.
Oh,
and we got so many more to go.
Yes,
so yeah, you're the top.
Okay, you'll have to tell me if somebody ever.
We might do something at the end of the year, like an awards kind of thing.
Like
so
I might be the winner of this.
I think you're gonna be the winner.
I think you might be as well.
Oh,
yes.
Okay, I really hope so. That would make me feel like I'm quick witted.
And if you are, we will award you something on YouTube.
Okay, great.
We're planning to have an award show.
Yes.
Oh, that'd be so
it's
fun.
gonna be like an award show kind of video.
Maybe I could get like a lava lamp or something.
Hey, we might have to award you that.
I don't know.
You never know.
We might have to do that.
Right.
It's in honor of its branding.
Of course.
Exactly.
Hey, facts.
Right. So going back into you, one thing that I've noticed, you've been on YouTube for like many years now, posting music videos, live performance, little sit-down talks, and even being on press and media and TV, and showing the world like who you really are. But one thing that I found interesting was that out of all the videos you posted over the years, your most viewed video was your most recent music video, Something More.
Oh, yeah.
What do you think contributed to the success of the music video?
I think it was a combination of factors. I think it was the fact that it was the new single after the record, that it was like I'd had a little break where people want to hear what the next thing sounds like.
Okay.
I think by the time I'd put out some of those other videos, the record and the songs had already been like in circulation. Whereas I think with that one, it was like, oh, it's a new something. So it's like, what is it? Let's listen, right? And it's always, you only get that one. Like, it's like whatever that first one is, everyone's like, what is it, right?
Yeah.
So I think part of it was that. I think another side of it was maybe the visual effects. That was the first time that I did.
Yeah, that's awesome. I noticed that too. Yeah, that was cool.
Thanks. And then I think possibly a third answer might be that I knew a lot more about marketing at that point because I had just gone through the whole independent record. So it was like by the time I got to Something More, I kind of employed all the skills that I had learned over the last 2-3 years, and I tried to make it work.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's dope. And I think like, looking back at it now, it really did what it was supposed to.
Yeah, it was cool. I was like, I'm happy that it resonated.
Yeah.
No,
it resonated with a lot of
made me
people.
super happy. I think like that song, I wasn't sure. Like I loved the song, and I was like, it's a new sound, and I was really proud of the production on that because we had like Dan and I had thought so much about it, and like really
sonically it's
worked
crazy.
Yeah, thanks. We were just like trying to find a cool vibe and sound that we could get behind that felt true to me, and that was like the first song from the new. I'm working on. Well, I finished a new EP that's done.
Oh, really?
But that was like the first one of that I was like, it felt really right production wise, where this was like a new vibe that I could like really stand behind. So I was like, let's release it because it feels like time during the pandemic to like do this, or like tail end of the pandemic to do this.
Right.
And so I think part of that was like, I just was surprised. I didn't know how that song would do, and it did better like streaming wise and YouTube wise and like everything wise than I thought, like press wise, like everything. Like I didn't know what, because it was pretty different from the last records. I mean, it still had me in it, I think, but different sonically a little bit, because I had such a different focus production wise with it that like you just don't know. I was like, I don't know, are people gonna be into this, or are they gonna be like, oh, this sounds different than the last one that we liked or whatever. So I was happy to hear that one actually like transcended more than the other ones. Like I think it reached a wider audience than Life in Review songs from the record.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Like we mentioned earlier, you had graduated from USC in dramatic arts, and of course we kind of talked about it. You're your own creative director, stylist, and producer as well, and you kind of learned some acting from UCLA, right?
Oh yeah, I did.
You did. So
before I went
before
and
you
threw
went
it down
to
the no, I'm just
But okay, do you feel like attending though such a prestigious school like USC, was it worth it in the long run, or does it just look good on the resume? Because this is something we've talked about a lot of times. Is like art school needed or not?
I heard you ask that in a few episodes. Yeah.
What's your experience like?
I will say this: no one ever looks at my GPA or resume. I don't put it on my. I mean, because I'm a creative, a writer.
Yeah.
Right.
I've been a publicist. I've been an actor. I've been a. No one cares.
Yeah. Exactly.
That's my experience.
Yeah.
But I will say, was it worth it? That becomes a harder question, right? Because it's like, do you need it? No, I don't think you need it. Was it worth it? I met some of my best friends that I'm still friends with to this day, that are like amazing creative people, like my friend Katie, who is a comedian, who like we've made a lot of comedic work together, and like she's like one of my biggest supporters. And then like my friend Betsy Newman shoots all my album covers and like
That's
all
awesome.
my single covers, and like she did all the Something More stuff. So it's like I knew I had a network in LA of people that I liked, who I trusted, that I like knew what their work was, and so we've kind of like grown up together,
Right.
So in that regard, like, yeah, I mean, it was awesome. Like, I met so many great people. I felt like it helped me kind of like grow into like who I am today in terms of all that. But did I need to, I mean, it's funny. My parents used to always tell me at school, like, just get a C, like, but I couldn't do that because I wanted to do well.
Yeah.
So they'd be like, you just got to graduate. Like, no one cares about your GPA. And my parents would always tell me that. But I was like, well, if I'm here, I want to leave with a good GPA.
Yeah.
Like, that's just
That's
how
dope,
I am.
Because usually it's the other way around.
I know.
Yeah.
No, my parents were like, please get a C. Like, just pass.
I feel like that's my parents as well. Yeah, no, honestly, the same exact thing.
But to me, I was like, I couldn't. Like, I don't know if it's that I'm a perfectionist. I don't know what it is. Like, I can't, I'm very all or nothing.
Yeah.
Okay.
So at first I didn't want to go to college because I just wanted to go out and act and write songs and whatever.
Right.
My parents were like, you've got to go to college. Like, but then they were like, if you're going to go, just like go to college. Like, you can get a C, right? Like, and go do your acting and your music, but just like pass and go to college. Like, because it's good. They knew you don't need the GPA on your resume to like get a good job if you need it.
Right. Exactly.
Or to use the network, or they knew all that stuff, which like
That's dope.
someone could tell you that, but I didn't really. Even then, I was like, well, if you're making me go to school, I'm gonna do well. Like if I'm here, it's all or nothing. Like I don't want to look back and be like, if in 10 years I decide I'm gonna pull in Elwoods and like go to law school or whatever. Like I don't want to be like, well, shoot, now I can't go where I want to go because I didn't get a good GPA.
No.
So I was like, if I'm here, like, let's just go for it. And I'm still going to be like doing acting classes and doing the music stuff. And so I ended up like doing really well at school. Like I was a magna cum laude. I was like
That's
a Pi
awesome.
Beta Kappa honor society, all this stuff. But no one cares.
Yeah, nobody cares.
No one ever, I've never once used my GPA. No one cares that I'm a Pi Beta Kappa. Sorry, Pi Beta Kappa. They probably tell you that they do. They're like, it's very important. Like, no one cares. So to me, it's like, but did I learn a strong work ethic?
Yeah.
I guess I don't know. Did I learn the work ethic, or did I already have the strong work ethic? It's like the chicken or the egg. Like, I don't know. Maybe the reason I did well is because I already had it.
Yeah, no.
But no, I did learn how to like get things done on a deadline, and like how to like turn this in and like do it well, and like be okay, and like be able to balance like 5 classes and like that kind of stuff. Like, I do think that helps you like when it comes to being a creative, because you're like, I'm like, listen, I know how to like make things happen.
Yeah.
It's not, I'm not just like sitting at home. Well, I'm sitting at home a lot, but like doing things.
Yeah, of course.
But like, I don't go to an office. But like, I mean, I'm not just like playing video games all day. Not that there's anything wrong with video games, but like, I like, I think maybe part of that came from like being like, okay, I'm out of school, I know how to, like, this, you do this, you turn this in, you go the night, you keep moving. And but no, I mean, in general, I kind of think that education at like a high level, I don't want to say it's a scam, but I do think some of it's a little bit like we're told this thing as a society, and like you got to do this and then you do this, but like so many of my friends graduated with high level degrees and can't get a job.
Exactly.
Or they're getting a really low paying job that they're like, what the heck, I just spent all this money getting my PhD or whatever it is, and like I still can't get like a job that pays like a decent salary.
Exactly.
So it's like, I don't don't know. Part of me wonders, like, if that person who did that actually started in the workforce, like, at 18 or whatever it is, 17.
Right.
Like, where would they be in comparison to, like,
Right.
having gone through all this school and spent all this money? Like, what if they just started working? Would they have moved up? Would they have learned all that stuff, like, anyway? Would they have made friends anyway? Like, and like now being be in student debt. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I don't know. Some of the most successful people I know didn't go to college.
Exactly.
So, like,
Exactly.
was I happy I went? Yeah. I mean, it's actually fun. Like USC is a really fun school, and like there's a lot of school spirit that like it's cool to be like, oh yeah, we both went to USC.
Yeah.
And like
Right.
I've met older people that I were like wearing SC sweatshirts and stuff that I've
Right.
become friends with because they're like, I'm like, I went to SC, and they're like, let me like take you around. Like
Yeah.
there is that like camaraderie.
Camaraderie, yeah.
So would I trade it? Like, no, I wouldn't. But like, I don't know what my life would be like if I didn't go. I mean,
Exactly.
you know,
Yeah.
No, 100%.
I don't think
that.
you have to.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
exactly. And I fully agree with you, you know, because film school is expensive
It's
as hell.
expensive.
It's expensive.
Yeah.
Art school in general
And
is
I
expensive.
almost wonder if you should use the money to just go make your film. Like,
I know,
take that
right?
money and make like
that
a sick feature.
literally that
Yeah.
money I'm paying for back to school loans
Yeah.
could make a feature film, you know?
And like put it in the festival circuit.
Exactly.
But then you're like, do you have the skill to do that yet?
Yeah,
I
see,
don't
that's the
know.
thing.
Exactly.
Is
And-
that money worth doing that with? Because
See,
you have
that's-
the skill.
That's what
Yeah.
I would say is film school helped me a lot with a lot of history, skills, learning more about, you know, filmmaking in general,
Yeah.
you know, but I feel like this is something that you kind of need to learn hands-on and on your own. Like YouTube helps a lot, you know, and nowadays they're, you know, other filmmakers make their own courses based off stuff they learned from film school.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know, so,
right.
you know, that's the
So
thing.
you could just buy a course online.
Exactly, you could just buy courses
It depends what
online
level
now.
of discipline you have, right? Are
Exactly.
you able to sit at home and listen to a YouTube university?
Yeah.
Right.
Or are you not? Are you gonna get distracted?
Yeah.
Are you gonna go do whatever else
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
never actually finish that course? Because
Exactly.
that is what college is good for. Is like the discipline of
Right,
like
right.
showing up. You have to learn, or
You
you're
do.
you're gonna fail.
No,
You're
exactly.
gonna fail out.
100%.
Whereas if you're a super self-motivated, self-disciplined person, you could do the whole
Right.
YouTube University
On your
approach.
own, yeah.
Some people, you know, have a hard time with that.
No,
I
they-
mean,
they
sometimes
do.
myself included, because
Yeah.
I'm a little ADHD at times, and I'm like, oh, just watch the YouTube video, and then
Yeah,
I like
right.
halfway through, I'm like texting my friend about breakfast or something.
yeah, yeah.
Like I don't know. So
Yeah.
I almost feel like it kept me focused
Yeah.
because in class, for the most part, I mean, I could still sometimes text and do that
Right,
stuff.
right,
But
of
like for the
course.
most part,
You're
I
focused,
had
yeah.
to be like focused.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can see
And I
that.
took some songwriting classes, and I took some acting classes, and like I actually picked up a guitar for the first time at USC because one of my songwriting, I came in and I sang this melody for a song, and he's like, "This is really cool. Like, is there a reason you're not accompanying yourself and playing an instrument with the song with the chords?" And I'm like, "Well, no, other than the fact that I don't know how to do that." And he's like, "Okay, next week you need to come back in." And you need to play that song with a guitar or something.
Yeah.
So I got the guitar and I like discovered what the chords would be under that, just kind of strumming around. And I came back in and I performed that same like melody lyric with the guitar, and like, yeah, I mean,
History was made.
well, I mean, it really made a difference because then I
Yeah.
realized, oh, I can do this even if I'm just like creating the song and telling someone
Right.
else to produce it. It kind of changed a lot.
Yeah,
So I'm
it
like,
did.
I don't know, would I have picked it up on my own? Maybe eventually I would have been like, I want to do this, but like it challenged me to like, I had to perform in front of the class with the guitar, singing my original song while playing at the same time in a class full of people that were already like mostly instrumentalists from like like they were a child, because they were like in the USC pop program, you know, and they
Okay.
like, to get in there you have to be pretty freaking good already.
Yeah.
And so I was in this class of people that like were really great like instrumentalists, you know, and I'm like, okay, they're like, okay, go like write this thing on the guitar, come back, play it and sing it, and like for the like showcase you have to like play and sing your song on the guitar. And I'm like,
That's crazy.
it's probably so bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like it forced me to
Challenged you, yeah.
forced me to do it, and like now I'm doing it.
Yeah.
So
No, that's awesome.
I don't know.
That
It's
is
like,
dope.
I guess that was valuable.
Yeah, no, that's awesome.
Right?
Yeah, that is dope.
So you performed at a variety of different locations as an artist. Like, does performing give you a rush of excitement or nervousness at some points?
Both. I mean, it's so funny. My like one of my guitarists and music director will be like, it's so funny because like up until the show, like right before the curtain drops, you're like you just feel the anxious energy, you know, and then he's like, I'm like, is she gonna be okay? And then he's like, the curtain drops and you like seem like the most confident person on the planet. And he's like, it's such a weird like dichotomy. It's like, I'm like, hey, I'm ready to go. But like, I feel like I psych myself up leading up to it. And then the second that I'm on the stage, I kind of, especially a few songs in, I get really into it. And then I don't want to leave the stage ever.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, I can see
That's
that.
awesome, though.
Yeah,
I don't know, like that's kind of how it is for me.
Yeah.
It's like, but I do kind of think about it, especially if I haven't performed in a bit. Then I'm like, okay, it's coming up on Saturday.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm like, don't see anyone between now and
Does
Saturday.
it give you
Like,
anxiety sometimes, though?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Like anxiety of just like, I'm excited, but I'm also just like, be ready, be prepared.
Yeah.
And part of that's just like that I have that perfectionist side of me.
Yeah.
No, I feel the
that's
same
awesome.
way. You know, I used to perform dance all the time.
Yeah, and you felt that way too.
Yeah, exactly. When you're like on the side and you know you're next, that anxiety like gets to you. You're like, oh, you're just overthinking about everything that
And
could
you
go wrong.
notice everything.
Exactly.
At that moment, your senses are so heightened. Like you're like, my pants fit weird.
Yeah.
Like you're like,
Just
yeah,
little things,
like you're like, oh my god, where's my guitar pick? Oh my god.
Yeah.
Like, is the strap weird? Is it like on right?
Right.
Like you just start to feel you're thinking about things that like normally on an everyday basis you're not so concerned about.
Exactly. But once you get on stage and the music
Well,
starts,
that's it. You're like, you're here.
It's done.
You have no choice but to be like
Exactly.
in it. Otherwise, you're just gonna completely like fall apart.
exactly.
It's kind of how you know if you're like made for it, because all of a sudden the shakiness stops.
Yeah,
The
it
confidence
does, and
comes
then
out.
I feel good and I'm fine. I mean, there have been a few moments where the shakiness didn't leave, and like it
okay.
was right. Like
Of
there,
course,
like
yeah.
early on
Of
when
course,
you're
yeah.
doing it for
Yeah.
the first time,
Yeah.
and you're like halfway, you have overconfidence that you're like, oh, it's gonna be fine, and then you realize you're not prepared enough.
Yeah.
You're right.
And then you're like you're kind of blacking out. Like
right.
I've had that too.
Oh, damn.
So I know
That's
what that's
bad.
like, and I think now maybe that's why I over prepare, because I know that when you get on stage, the nerves kick in.
Right.
So certain things that you know when you're in your bedroom, when all of a sudden you have like everybody looking at you and you're
yeah.
sweating and you're nervous,
Yeah.
you forget.
Yeah.
Yeah, you do.
So you almost need to like over know it, which is I think why I like try to over prepare.
Yeah.
To the point where I'm like, you freaking know it, but
Yeah.
like I'm like, but I don't want to be up there and get nervous, and then I know myself that like at that moment is when you forget the thing.
Of course.
Even as an actor.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I
Like
bet.
you think you know the lines until you're in an audition where they take your sides away and you feel very nervous and you don't know the lines at all.
Yeah.
But you actually did know them. Like
Exactly.
I could recite them perfectly at home, but like
Right.
so then I learned, I need to like over know it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just being
like
in
know
that
it to the point where it's like in second
nature, yeah. But sometimes like that, being in that moment is just so vulnerable that you do like forget things on the spot too, even though as much as you.
And listen, I think
you know,
that
went
happens
over.
to superstars
Right,
too.
right,
I've
exactly.
watched performances where like my favorite artist is all of a sudden singing the wrong words, and they're
Yeah.
like, and then they get back to it, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
When they've sung the song hundreds of times, but I
Exactly.
think that
Yeah.
like you can become overcome by sometimes. We're
Yeah.
only human.
Oh, yeah, of
And I
course.
feel like a lot of artists too, they create so many songs to the point they don't even remember their
Yeah.
lyrics. Yeah.
Oh, I can imagine, because
Yeah.
you're just like, this
Yeah.
is from 10 albums ago.
Yeah, exactly.
You're
Yeah.
like,
Exactly.
what was the lyric?
Yeah, exactly.
You don't even remember it.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
Which I think that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. It
And I
does.
read that Adele, like every time before she goes on stage, she gets super nervous and like throws up.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
I bet.
I read
yeah.
that about Adele, and I was like, well, she's one of the best. If
Yeah,
she
she
can get
is.
nervous, we're all allowed
I think
to.
there's
Yeah.
like literally 90% of artists still get nervous, but
Yeah.
and then once they're on the stage, that excitement just kicks in, and they're like 100%.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. I think it's natural because you feel like all eyes are on you, and like
yeah.
it's hard not to feel like, oh, they're gonna judge me.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, speaking about, you know, nervousness and only being human, you know,
Yeah.
the artist you drop is all about inspiring the next generation by sharing like real life stories like yours, and just showing like others like behind social media. We're just people too, you know.
Yeah, totally,
You know,
totally. It's
and I kind of
important.
wanted to dive a little bit deeper into like, what are some of the obstacles that you faced in order to be who you are now?
It's a good question. You both have really good questions.
Oh,
thank you
thank
for
you.
being so thoughtful about
Of
it.
course.
Of course, yeah, we do our research, you know.
No, you do.
Yeah.
It matters. It matters.
Yeah.
It makes a huge difference. Yeah, I've had to overcome so much to become who I am. It's funny. I actually had to go through this last week because I've been working on some acting stuff where I had to go through like what my life story was. I was like, man, like life story, like that's so much. Like where do you even start? You know, but I was supposed to like provide my life story. I was like, I don't even know where to start, right?
Exactly.
And it was like, what are your challenges? What were your triggers? What were your obstacles? Like what were your triumphs? Like what were all these things? I'm like, what do you mean for my whole life? Like I don't know, there's a lot.
It's a whole book.
A whole book of it. I mean, it feels like that when it's you.
Right.
I mean, I'm sure people be like, this is boring, but no, but like I feel like I've been through like different phases, right?
And how do you put that into a short
how do
paragraph?
I put this into a paragraph?
Yeah.
Like you're asking me for my life story in a paragraph? Like I don't know.
Exactly.
But I kind of had to come through it to be like, what were things I had to like overcome and go through. So I definitely had to just do this recently. But yeah, you know, I think I had to overcome a couple of things to become who I am. Definitely lots of insecurity. Like even though full circle, like I was a really confident kid, by the time I got to 7th grade, I would say I was so insecure. I felt like horrible. And I think I had to overcome a lot of that of like insecurity, caring like what other people think, or like underestimating me, or like thinking because I look a certain way that I'm going to be a certain way.
Of course,
I was kind of rejecting some of that because I don't know, when you get to that stage, I think especially as a girl, like middle school, early high school is really hard because you're starting to like sort of become an adult, but you're also still like a kid.
Right.
And I think I just was like rejecting a lot of that. I was like, I don't want to be seen in a different way. Like, I don't want people to like, cause you can sense as a kid, like people start to look at you differently. Cause like now you're kind of an adult and like, people treat you differently, and I was like really kind of rebelling against that. Like I was like, no, I am not. You know? And I think it made me really insecure because I felt like it really highlighted things that I was like, I just want to be like, I'm still figuring myself out. If that makes sense. Like I just am still like, I just want to be like a kid still. I'm still figuring this stuff out. I don't want to be like all of a sudden thrown into this like adult world. And I think I just became very insecure because of it, and I just felt like I wanted to like hide, and I just wanted to be. I just wanted the space. Like I didn't want people pushing me. I didn't want people. Go with the flow. I didn't want people like I don't know if that makes any sense, but and I think I had to just like overcome a lot of that, definitely, to like get to a place where I could feel like I could just be myself, like show, and I had to go through different phases of like, who is that? Like,
exactly.
Because it's not this and it's not this, and then I came somewhere in the middle. But like just figuring out who you are and what you want, like, is a process.
It's a long process.
So I think like many years, and I think like to get to a place where it's so funny because a lot of people have told me recently, like, oh, you're just like so yourself, like you're super confident, like you just seem like you're so yourself, and I'm like, that's so funny because I feel like I had to like, I wasn't that at one point. And I think maybe because I went through that, it helped me to actually get to the other side of it because I had to like consciously and actively overcome it. Whereas some people don't have to, they don't really feel that much that, so they kind of just stay here. But because I was like fucking here, so I don't know if I can cuss on this.
No, you can 100% cuss.
I had to like I had to figure out like techniques and like how do I get to this other side of like feeling good about myself and like worthy and enough and like and because of that I actually feel like I got even further to the other side of that, almost to like know how to handle situations where I maybe don't feel that way.
That's dope.
So like I feel like now I can kind of speak on that to like that person that maybe doesn't feel, you know, like enough or worthy or like or feel insecure or whatever. So I definitely think like that was a big part of my journey. Like learning my self-worth, like not underestimating myself.
That self-reflection.
And also like learning how to let go. That's definitely been a part of my journey of like not holding on to things too tightly, like learning how to like when it's time to let go. Definitely has been making me who I am. Setting boundaries with people, like learning how to not just be like a people pleaser person has been a big part of my journey of like having to like be like, no, like I'm not gonna do this thing just because you need it at this exact moment, like because I am like I don't want to disappoint people. That's who I am. I want everyone to be happy. So I've jumped through hoops to like make everybody else happy, and then I realize,
then it sacrifices yourself.
Well, I'm depleted. I'm like, and I still do this all the time, by the way. But I like have to learn. I've had to try to learn, and I get better and better about it every year. But it's such a core of who I am to like have to work on that. But it's because of that I write about that. I try to help other people through it because I've had to like. I think the best person to like teach some of those things is someone who's actually been through it, and that it's actually hard for because they've had to learn how to do it even when it's hard.
Yeah, exactly.
And what do you do when it's hard for you? If it's really easy for you, you might not need to learn techniques to do it because you just naturally do it. Whereas for me, I don't naturally do it. So I have to be like, how do I set boundaries? I'm allowed to say no. Like, you know, that kind of stuff. Like, because I forget that. So that's been like a big part of my journey as well, I would say, is that. And like, you know, doing my own thing, like not, you know, I think a lot of it's made me just into somebody that like does what I want and stays kind of true to my own values and like what those morals are, what are those values, like not compromising any of that because I've had to kind of overcome some of that stuff to like I don't know if that makes sense.
No, it does.
No, it does.
And you came a long way.
Yeah, like those are kind of like the core things I think I constantly have to relearn, you know?
Yeah.
No,
and I'm like
awesome.
a light years ahead of where I was, but like I still have to check myself to be like, okay, you know, if I start slipping to feeling a certain way of like, okay, no, like I've learned all these things since then. You know, and now I feel like I'm in such a different place than where I was when I was, say, like 13. Right?
Yeah.
So light, like so different. I say light years, and then Jack, my boyfriend's always like, "That's not time." But I just like the saying, "I'm light years away." It's like that's not a time.
I mean, that is true.
That's time traveling.
Yeah, that's time traveling.
But I'm like, whatever. I'm gonna say it.
Yeah.
But no, I feel like I'm very far from that person. But yet I can still tap into that person. It's interesting because like I've written with some girls in high school, middle school, high school. And I like can still tap into that person because I remember so strongly what that felt like.
Tapped into that Fergalicious side.
Fergalicious. Well, Fergalicious was thankfully a little later. I think I was a bit more confident at that, or maybe that was the moment that I.
It snapped.
No, I was a bit more confident then. It's funny because I always think I came off as confident, but I don't think people would. It's like. I don't know. I've talked to some like older high school friends who are like, no, you've always been like really confident and like, you know, chatty with people and like whatever. And I'm like, yeah, maybe that's like how it seemed on the outside. But some people don't always know what you're going through on the inside, right? True. Like you can't judge, even if everybody, whether it's social media, whether it's in person, if they seem a certain way, like people are good actors.
No,
I didn't feel that way at all. So I'm like, that's funny. You thought that because I didn't feel that way, but maybe I was like overcompensating. I don't know. But no, definitely in middle school was hard because I feel like middle school is a weird time in general.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
But like in middle school, I definitely felt like very insecure and awkward. And then maybe by the time I got to high school, I actually like seemed confident, but I was not actually confident. You know, I felt like I was like constantly trying to figure out how to be something, or how to fit in, or how to be whatever. And I'm also such a perfectionist. That's another thing I constantly have to work through is like learning that like when to let go of something. Like I said, like trying not to be not to like kill something in perfectionism because like I can be so detail oriented sometimes that it's like you're not helping anymore. This is just like it's too detailed, right?
And you'll never release it because you're
never
holding
release it. So I've had to like definitely have that be part of my journey. Is like, okay, like let people help. Like I don't have to do everything. Let someone in to help. You don't have to do it all. Like, try not to be like strive for excellence, not perfection. I know people say it all the time. I have to remind myself that there's a point where it gets like, I do believe the details really help because I think the details make things, like the devil's in the details. Like if you don't have the details right, sometimes it doesn't work. It just falls apart. But there's a point where it's like you've got that lined up and now you could just keep going and keep doing it. And it's like, this is now not helping, and it was actually already like great, and now it's like no one else is noticing these changes. It's so negligible at this point.
Doing too much, you're too extra.
And it's like it might to me. I'm like, it's way better, and then like, but everyone else I'm playing it for is like, what's the difference? I'm like, no, that one little thing at minute 2, like, and it's like, what are you talking about? Like, so that's something where I'm like, okay, like calm down. I think I've gotten a little bit better about that too. But like over the years, I think you just you start to learn the things that are like struggles for you. I don't know if you both feel like this, but like if you have if you felt like you've had like similar themes of struggles throughout your life, like if or like that you've had to, that's how I felt. Like I felt like it's always like in a different dressing, but it's a similar struggle.
Oh yeah, for sure.
No, definitely. I think a lot of people have that issue. Honestly, I don't think it's just you. It's a lot. It's a lot of artists.
Yeah.
Honestly, you know, so
in different situations, different times, but like, you know, I think that's what also makes artistry so unique and special, because like people can really resonate even though they don't really go through the exact same situation, you know, they can resonate with it in some type of way, some type of form, you know.
Totally.
I think artists are all the same in some kind of way.
Yeah, I think that's why I try to stay true to those experiences, because I'm like, someone's gonna connect with this, and so my next like record that I'm working on definitely talks to a lot of like the people pleasers, the perfectionists of the world, you know, the workaholics. Like, but that's because that's what I know. So I'm like, let me talk to these people, because like I have something I can share, because I've had to work through that.
Exactly.
And I can
that's you.
because that's me. So I'm like, I have something I can say on this. I'm not gonna say something on this totally other topic that I don't feel like I'm an authority on, because I don't know what that's like.
Right, exactly.
You know?
No, that's awesome. Well, we're coming to an end of our podcast. It was definitely a good talk. Like
we went through
we went through so much, honestly, and you
great.
spoke a lot, you know, a lot of inspirational stuff. And like we did mention, you know, Artistry Drop is all about being inspirational to the next generation, to today's generation, and everything like that. So what advice would you give to somebody trying to become a singer, songwriter, or an actress?
That's such a hard question, because it's so much, right? Like it's like, where do you even start? I would say to go easy on yourself, because it's a long road. Like if you're doing this and you're in it, like you have to go easy on yourself and try to stay true to yourself, and just like let yourself have the space and the patience and the time. Because if you're trying, it's easy to get discouraged. And it's like, just try to focus on the craft and the art, and coming back to like what matters to you and what you want to say. And try to think less about the success or the job or the fame or the whatever, like, because I think that's not really what it's about. I think if you can come back to like, am I happy with this art that I created? Am I happy with this song that I made? Even if, regardless of nobody hears it but you two, right?
Exactly.
Am I happy with this audition tape I sent in? Even if the only person that like sees this is like the casting director who watches 10 seconds of it and then says, oh, that girl doesn't look like the part, you know, and then doesn't watch, even though you spent a whole day or two. Like, but are you happy with like the art you created? Because at the end of the day, that's what it is. Like if you can sit there and be happy with that creation and feel like you got something out of it, whether you learned something more about yourself, whether you became more present, you're gonna get value out of it, regardless of what the financial success or whatever regardless of what the acclaim is, or whether people love it, or whether people like comment
all the numbers.
It's like, that's great, and of course we all want to feel that way, like, of course. You know, I'm sure both of you are like, we want this to be the biggest podcast. Like, of course, right? Like, and I want my record to be the biggest record, and like whatever. But at the end of the day, like, did we have fun tonight? Like, I think we did. Like, we had 100%. A great conversation. Like, I felt like I learned about you guys. Like, you learned about me. Like, and like we made a connection. It's like, what a cool Friday night, right? And I think if you can come back to that of like, I made a cool song with my friends. Like, my vocals are like way better than they were last time. Like, and if you feel like you're like, wow, I was able to do that. It doesn't really matter like what the numbers say or what anyone else thinks. And I think if you can keep that in mind, like even as you have success, right? Because even if you're on top of the world, that's still important to be like, because you can, if you're basing your feelings on like other people's judgment, you could be on the top of the world and then at the bottom in like a day. Like that's just how the industry is. It's so crazy. You can't base your feelings on like the success or whether you're hitting your, and no comparing, you know, like, because everyone's on such a different journey. I always try to remind myself to like stay in your lane, because everyone's on a different lane. It's not even fair for me to like compare myself to some person that's writing completely different genre, different thing, different whatever. But it's so easy in this industry to compare yourself, to be like, I feel like when I was like in high school, I would Google like, what age did so and so become a famous actress? Like, and then if I was like past that age, I'd feel like shit because you would be like, oh my god, I'm running out of time. Like, and I don't know if that's just me. That I might be a psychopath. I probably am. But like, I would be like looking up on IMDb of like what age. Like, I would see like, okay, they did this film project and they were this age, or it would be like this year, and they were born in this year. So how old were they in this film project? Like, so crazy. But like, I would do that shit because I was like, I felt like, okay, I don't want to be behind.
There was
like,
some type of formula.
Like, there's some type of like, you're ahead or you're behind or you're whatever. But like, there is not that.
Exactly.
The reality is everyone's on a different timetable, and like, no matter whether you become successful early or later, whatever, it's not even about that. Like, sometimes you can inspire people more when you're actually the one that's the later one or the or the earliest one. It doesn't matter. Like, as long as you're doing your thing, like you can inspire people through your story. So I would just say, like, let go of all that kind of stuff, because it only holds you down and it doesn't actually get you closer to your goal.
That's dope.
I have to say, that's probably one of the, actually, that's the most inspiring we've heard on Artistry Drop.
Oh, wow.
I have to say, I love the way you put it, and like, thank you for, saying that to our viewers, and even us. That's definitely inspiring, you know, so definitely appreciate that.
Well, I remember like even being at USC, like I said, I hadn't picked up the guitar yet, and I remember like some people acting like there's no way that I could even do it at that point, even though that's not even that old. I was in college, but like compared to when people maybe had picked it up, which is like 5 years old or 6, some of them. And it's like, oh no, there's no way, whatever. Like, oh, that's like, you're too old to pick this up or to do this or whatever, which is like kind of silly because it was college. But like, just an example. And it's like, the funny thing is, like, I feel like I kind of started doing that later in life than some of the other people, but like, I've actually gotten songs like on TV shows and commercials, like picked up with artists, like had records get pressed, do things. You don't, it's all bullshit. Like, it doesn't actually mean anything. Like, if you have, I think I read, I don't know if you guys know who Sandra Oh is, but she's an actress. I think she's the one, I hope I don't get this wrong, I think she's in Killing Eve, or no, wait, sorry, I think this was Lucy Liu. One of the two. I think it was Lucy Liu. Lucy Liu was saying, like, it's never too late. You just have to have a hammer in your back pocket. And I found that that's really true. Like, if you're willing to just be like, I'm doing this and I'm giving it like my whole heart and all. It's not too late. You could be 65 years old. You could be 75. You could be 89. You could, like, it doesn't matter as long as you're like, I'm doing this and this is what I'm doing now. And like, you could, it's
perseverance.
And just as long as you're ready to go for the ride, because it's not always easy.
But all it takes is that one chance.
It just takes that one, one shot. So
one
like,
shot,
who cares? Let's just do it.
Exactly. Are there any shout outs you want to give to our viewers?
No, I just want to say, hey, thanks for listening this far and like being with us, and hope you can check out the music and send me a message if anything resonated with you and like you want to talk about it further. I'm always happy to chat, you know.
And now that you mentioned that, where can people find you on social media?
Some good segues here. I love noticed. You can find me on Instagram at Kara Connolly, Kara with a K, Connolly with 2 N's, 2 O's, 2 L's. It's like the only way everyone gets it wrong. And then I'm on Twitter at MS Kara Connolly, like Miss Kara Connolly. Same with Facebook, MS Miss Kara Connolly. You could go to my website, karaconnolly.com, where I have like an email, like a fan email club, and then also like you could shoot me an email to my website if you want to talk that way. To my team, you could email. Yeah. So any of the above, really.
Yeah, and
leave me a YouTube comment, anything.
Of course.
I'm like, whatever manner you want to chat, I'm here.
Of course. And everybody knows we're going to put all your social media in the description below.
Yeah.
But Kara, thank you again for coming on the show. This was definitely a good talk. Learning more about your story, learning more about your music and everything. Thank you again.
Yeah, thank you. We went deep.
Thank you.
We did. But hey, it was a fun episode. Thank you again.
Yes,
but guys, we hope you guys enjoyed this episode. If you're not subscribed to our YouTube channel yet, it's Artistry Drop. If you're not following us on Instagram, you can find us at the Artistry Drop. And if you prefer just listening, you can stream all our episodes on all major podcast platforms. And we'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.